So I think that it's time that we start our meeting, and I would like to welcome you all. And this is a general and introductory training meeting for Horizon Europe. Unfortunately, it takes place not physically, but as a webinar. And the focus of this training is on Cluster 3, the work program for civil security for society. So what we were all used to call Secure Societies program in Horizon 2020, and it's now called Civil Security for Society and Cluster 3. And the idea is that we will have a welcome speech by our national contact point for Turkey for the Civil Security for Society, Dr. İlknur Yılmaz, and then we have 3 sessions. The first session is about the Horizon Europe strategic plan and work program. The second session is more focused about proposal preparation. And the third session today is specifically focused on providing explanations and information about the topics of the first calls of 2021. And after these 3 sessions, there will be a roundtable discussion with all panelists, and you are encouraged to provide us with questions for all thematic sessions, but also for the roundtable discussion. So it's a pity if we had the event not as a webinar, but in a physical, old-fashioned way as an event. You would be able to interactively raise your hands and interrupt us and ask questions. Now it's a pity you have to provide these questions in written, and then we will answer them. But I would like that we will try to make the best out of this. And I will now introduce Dr. İlknur Yılmaz from TÜBİTAK. Dr. Yılmaz has graduated from Middle East Technical University, and she received her master's degree from Ankara University and a PhD degree from Middle East Technical University. And she has been working at TÜBİTAK EU Framework Program since 2007. And after acting as Energy National Contact Point for several years, she took over the position of National Contact Point for the Secure Societies program since 2019, and since 2020 also for inclusive, innovative, and reflective societies. And Dr. Yılmaz has represented Turkey in strategic initiatives like Strategic Energy Technology Plan Steering Group and Implementation Working Groups, and for program committees. And she has been carrying out several EU projects herself to increase Turkey's participation and success in the program. We are honored to have you with us, Dr. Yılmaz. Please take the floor.
Thank you for the introduction, Diamantis. Now I would like to continue in Turkish. Değerli akademisyenler, iş dünyası, STK ve kamu kurumu temsilcilerimiz, hepiniz hoş geldiniz. Zaten beni tanıttı Diamantis, o yüzden kendimden bahsetmeyeceğim. Bugün sizlerle beraber olmaktan çok mutluyum. Bugün bu etkinliğin Ufuk Avrupa programının başlamış olduğu şu günlerde Avrupa Birliği ile işbirliklerimizin artmasına, entegrasyonumuzun artmasına etki edeceğini umuyorum. Sivil güvenlik alanında siz paydaşlarımızın bilgi birikiminin de artmasına etki edeceğine eminim. Değerli katılımcılar, bildiğiniz üzere çerçeve programlar dünyanın en büyük sivil araştırma programı. Ülkemiz ise 2004 yılından bu yana asosya ülke statüsünde diğer Avrupa Birliği üye ülkeleriyle aynı haklara sahip olarak katılım sağlıyor programa. 6. çerçeve programında ilk kez Türkiye programa katıldığında çok yeniydik, tecrübemiz yoktu. Fakat bu tecrübe ilerleyen yıllarda gittikçe arttı. Aynı zamanda başarımız da yine katlanarak arttı programda. Ufuk 2020 programının son yılında, 2020 yılında Türk kuruluşlar önemli başarılara imza attılar. Türkiye ilk kez 2020 yılında çerçeve programları ödediği katkı payının üzerinde geri dönüş sağladı. 265 milyon avro bütçe ödemiştik Avrupa Komisyonu'na Ufuk 2020 programına katılım için. Mevcut durumda yaklaşık olarak 300 milyon avro geri dönüş sağlamış bulunuyoruz. Bu bizim için çok önemli bir başarı. Henüz açıklanmayan çağrılar da var. Bu rakamın daha da üstüne çıkacağımızı umuyoruz. Diğer önemli bir başarımız ise koordinatör sayımızdaki artıştı. Bildiğiniz üzere çok ortaklı projeler bir koordinatörlüğün liderliğinde hazırlanıyor ve yönetiliyor. 2019 yılı öncesine kadar Ufuk 2020 programında 7 tane başarılı koordinatörümüz vardı. Fakat 2020 yılında bu sayı 29'a çıktı. Neredeyse her alanda başarılı koordinatörlerimiz ortaya çıktılar ve Türkiye'yi bu projelerde temsil ettiler. Güvenlik alanında bu alanlardan bir tanesiydi. Bugün sunum gerçekleştirecek olan Tolga Bey Havelsan'dan bu projenin başarılı koordinatörü. Projenin diğer önemli bir tarafı ise yaklaşık 90 projenin arasında ilk sırada yer alıp başarılı olması. Dolayısıyla güvenlik alanında önemli bir adımdı bu. Türk koordinatör sayısının artması genel olarak programda hem görünürlüğümüzün arttığının göstergesi hem de tecrübemizin. Bu noktada değerli katılımcılar, size TÜBİTAK'ın ödül ve destek programlarından bahsetmek istiyorum. Çünkü bu ödül ve destek programlarının artan bu başarıya önemli etkisinin olduğuna inanıyorum. Bildiğiniz üzere TÜBİTAK Ufuk 2020 programının başından bu yana Türk kuruluşların programa hem katılımını hem de başarısını arttırmak için çeşitli destek ve ödüller sağlıyor. Bu desteklerden en çok kullanılanı seyahat desteğimizdi. Pandemi öncesine kadar çok aktif olarak faydalanıldı. Seyahat desteğimiz yoluyla Türk paydaşlar birçok toplantıya, Avrupa'da düzenlenen bilgi günlerine, proje pazarlarına katılım sağladılar. Ve bu şekilde hem programla ilgili bilgileri arttı, hem networkleri arttı ve programdaki başarıya önemli etkileri oldu. Kimi zaman bazı toplantılarda diğer Avrupa Birliği ülkelerinden çok daha fazla katılımcıya sahiptik. Bu da bizim için gerçekten güzel bir gelişmeydi. Diğer bir desteğimiz ise vurgulamak istediğim bugün koordinatörlüğü destekleme programı. Türk koordinatör sayısını arttırmak için başlattığımız bir programdı bu. Başarıyı hedeflemiyoruz bu programla. Aslında tecrübenin artmasını hedefliyoruz. Fakat bu başarıya da önemli bir etki sağladı. Son olarak son 2 yıldır yürürlükte olan ağlara üyelik desteğimiz var. Son çağrısı yeni kapandı. Bu da önemli bir destek. Biliyorsunuz ağlar çok önemli Avrupa'da. Ağlar yoluyla çağrılar belirleniyor. Burada Avrupa'daki belli alanlardaki önemli kuruluşlar bir araya geliyorlar, network oluşturuyorlar, birlikte başvuru yapıyorlar. Biz de buna önem verdiğimiz için bu ağlara üyelik ücretlerinin ödenmesi hem de toplantılara katılım için bir destek başlattık. İkinci çağrısı yeni kapandı. Bununla ilgili de web sayfamızda bilgilere ulaşabilirsiniz. Ayrıca ödüllerden de bahsetmek istiyorum. Hem başarılı projelere sağladığımız ödüller var, hem de eşik üstü puan alıp kazanamayan projelere sağladığımız ödüller var. Bu ödüller yoluyla da sizleri teşvik etmek ve programa katılımınızın devam etmesini sağlamak amacıyla yürüttük. Değerli katılımcılar, bildiğiniz üzere ki bugünkü etkinliğimiz Ufuk 2020'de Türkiye Faz 2 Teknik Destek Projesi kapsamında düzenleniyor. Bu projeden de Ufuk 2020 boyunca oldukça faydalandık, faydalanmaya da devam ediyoruz. TÜBİTAK'ın yararlanıcı kuruluş olarak yer aldığı bir proje bu. Proje kapsamında birçok etkinlik düzenledik. Bunlar genel bilgi günleri, onun dışında çeşitli alanlarda tecrübe kazanmış kuruluşlara, paydaşlara yönelik proje yazma kampları düzenlendi. Avrupa'da önemli kuruluşlara ziyaretler düzenlendi ve proje pazarları düzenlendi etkinlik yolu, bu proje yoluyla. Proje pazarlarını hem Türkiye'de hem Brüksel'de düzenledik. Avrupa Komisyonu tarafından da çok takdir almış etkinlikler bunlar. Bundan bahsettikten sonra şimdi Ufuk Avrupa programından bahsetmek istiyorum biraz. Bildiğiniz üzere Ufuk 2020 programı yeni bitti. Bu sene başında son çağrılar kapandı. Ufuk Avrupa programı 2021-2020 yılları arasında sürecek. 95,5 milyar avro bütçeye sahip bir program. Avrupa Komisyonu Ufuk Avrupa programını geçtiğimiz ay başlatmış bulunuyor. Türkiye programı asosye ülke olarak katılım sağlama aşamasında. Yakın zamanda üyelik sürecimizin tamamlanmasını bekliyoruz. Şimdi kısaca güvenlik alanından bahsetmek istiyorum Ufuk Avrupa programında. Bugünkü sunumlarda detaylara inilecek. Ben genel bir bilgiyle başlangıç yapmak istiyorum. Diamantis de bahsetti. Ufuk 2020 programında güvenli toplumlardı alanın adı. Şimdi ise toplum için sivil güvenlik alanı olarak küme 3 altında yer alıyor. Küme 3, Ufuk Avrupa programının küresel sorunlar ve endüstriyel rekabet bileşeninin altında yer alıyor. 1,6 milyar avro bütçeye sahip bütün program boyunca her yıl bu bütçe çağrılara ayrılacak. Örneğin bir yıl 220 milyon avro bütçemiz olacak 2021 yılında. İlk çağrının Mayıs sonunda açılması bekleniyor. Eylül başında da kapanması bekleniyor. Bekleniyor diyorum çünkü Avrupa Komisyonu açılış tarihlerini öteleyebiliyor. En son gelen bilgi bu şekilde. Küme yapısı Ufuk 2020 ile karşılaştırıldığında neredeyse aynı kaldı ve korunuyor. Kümede suç ve terörizmle mücadele, sınır güvenliği, siber güvenlik, afetle mücadele, altyapıların korunması gibi konulara destek verilecek. Ayrıca Ufuk 2020'den farklı olarak da yatay konulara da destek verecek bir destinasyonumuz var. Artık bu alt alanlar destination olarak geçiyor kümelerin altında. Bu noktada Ufuk 2020'deki Türkiye performansından bahsetmek istiyorum sivil güvenlik alanında. 2020 yılında özellikle başarımızı bütçe anlamında 4 katına çıkardık. Burada tabii koordinatör olarak yer alınan projenin de katkısı büyük. Havel, sana buradan tekrar teşekkür etmek istiyorum. Fakat diğer önemli bir husus ise Türk kuruluşların eşik üstü puan alan 42 projede ortak olarak yer almaları. Biliyorsunuz Ufuk 2020 programı rekabetçi bir program. Fakat 42 projede eşik üstü alan 42 projede ortak olarak yer alınması güvenlik alanında Türk paydaşların katılımının göstergesi, aktif katılımının göstergesi. Buradan yola çıkarak Ufuk Avrupa'da da kümedeki başarımızı katlamaya hedeflediğimizi belirtmek istiyorum. Bildiğiniz üzere kümede birçok çağrıda güvenlik güçlerimizin emniyet, sahil güvenlik, jandarma gibi katılımı şart. Aynı zamanda afetle mücadele başlıklarında ilk müdahale ekiplerinin katılımını şart koşuyor Avrupa Komisyonu. Bu kuruluşlarla beraber akademisyenlerimizin, sanayi kuruluşlarımızın dirsek temasıyla beraber projelerde yer almasının başarımıza katkı edeceğine inanıyorum. Umarım işbirlikleri daha da katlanarak artar 2021 çağrısında. Bildiğiniz üzere networking etkinliklerinin etkisi büyük ortaklıklarda. Önümüzdeki dönemde 2 etkinlik düzenlenmesi planlanıyor sivil güvenlik alanında. Bunu web sayfamızdan takip edebilirsiniz. Bir tanesinin kayıtları kapandı fakat diğerinin henüz açılmadı bile. Bu toplantılara kayıt yaptırmanızı ve Avrupalı paydaşlarla görüşmeler yaparak umarım başarılı projelerde yer almanızı istiyorum. Burada da www.ufuk2020.org.tr web sayfamıza eğer henüz üye değilseniz üye olmanızı hatırlatmak istiyorum. Çünkü üye olduğunuzda hem etkinlik duyuruları, ortak arama duyuruları, çağrı açılış duyuruları size newsletter yoluyla ulaşıyor e-postalarınıza ve bu şekilde programdan haberdar olabiliyorsunuz. Programla ilgili gelişmelerden haberdar olabiliyorsunuz. Sözlerime son verirken küme ile ilgili her türlü sorunuz için benimle her zaman irtibata geçebileceğinizi hatırlatmak isterim. Umarım sizler için verimli bir etkinlik olur. Etkinlik sonrasında da görüşlerinizi almaya devam edeceğiz. Şimdi size sormak istediğimiz birkaç tane soru var. Bu sorular yoluyla katılımcılarımızın profilini belirlemek istiyoruz. İlk olarak hangi kuruluş tipinden katıldığınızı sormak istiyoruz. Slaydo yoluyla cevaplayabilirsiniz.
if Kemal, you could also go back to the previous questions to see answers, or it's difficult because you have actively only one of them open. So we see there that we have many people who succeeded in the past in acquiring a project. And also there are some few who have had not so positive experiences, especially in case of having coordinated an action. This is always a little harsher because the efforts also to coordinate the proposal are higher. And can we go also to the previous question? So strengthen security, research and innovation. This is a very valuable information for you, Aljosa, for your presentation later. And
so most of the answers are targeting a more horizontal area, strengthened security, research and innovation. Also, we have organizations that are mostly interested in cybersecurity. This explains the number of high participation from industry.
So I think that we don't need to keep open the poll anymore. These are very useful information, and we may proceed.
Yeah.
So then again, thanks, Ilknur. And our next speaker is Odysseas. Odysseas, in the last times you were presenting yourself. So now I have the honor to present you myself. Yeah.
You're saving me a slide, Diamandis. You are saving me a slide.
And Odysseas Spiroglu is the key expert of the Turkey Horizon 2020 project, and he's specialized for legal, financial, and IPR aspects. And he's an innovation consultant with an engineering, ICT, and financial background of over 20 years. I would like to make a comment here, a side comment, that I saw also that once someone is young, like Dr. Yilmaz or you, Odysseas, you mention how many years you are involved in projects or in the area. When you get older, like I am getting older, I prefer to avoid mentioning this. So you have an over 20 years of working experience in EU-funded projects, Odysseas, and in all aspects, which means that from preparation of proposals, conceptualization, design, building the consortia, managing the projects, and this was under FP7, CIP, Interreg, MED, H2020, and now for Horizon Europe. Odysseas specializes in project management and quality intellectual property and re-engineering business processes, and he has designed and delivered more than 300 sessions, training sessions on innovation management, IPR, entrepreneurship, proposal writing, and project management. Odysseas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Diamandis. I will follow up on what Yilmaz Ilknur talked about, the structure of Horizon Europe and the new opportunities that we have, so that this will allow our participants to better understand how the new program is structured. I will share my screen so that you can see. Okay, give me a moment. Do you see the right screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
But so, you can't see as full screen of the cells.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Now
it's okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that's it. So I will devote my session into strategic plan and work programs, and I do that because I believe it is absolutely necessary for all participants in such programs like Horizon Europe to understand what is behind these calls. And now that Horizon Europe is ready to start and new calls are expected, it is important for us to understand where all this comes from. So I will not talk about myself. Diamandis already talked a lot about me. What we are going to cover today, we're going to cover the EU priorities of the work program, the strategic plan, and you will understand what a strategic plan is and where it comes from, the work programs of 21-22, and of course, explain the key strategic objectives and the new approaches and some novelties that we have in Horizon Europe. Now, if you would like to understand EU funding, and this goes for every thematic priority and every call, then it is vital for you to know how European Union works. And it evolves from a unique economic and political union into something more, and now it has evolved into organization, the global organization that has a lot of interest spanning many areas, influence and jurisdiction across many policy topics ranging from climate to environment to health. So European Union is trying to have a global say, and this global say needs to come with some values and some goals. So the goals of European Union is to promote peace and well-being of its citizens and of its neighbor, to preserve freedom and security and justice, to make sure that we're developing in a sustainable way, in a balanced, we have a balanced economic growth, we have price stability, a market economy that works, people are fully employed, there is social progress, and of course we are doing that at the same time protecting the environment. Similarly, we care about our neighborhoods, so we, as Europeans and as European Union, we try to ensure that nobody is left behind. So there are plenty of programs in economic and social and territorial cohesion, and of course, social inclusion, and scientific and technological progress. And all that by maintaining a cultural and linguistic diversity. Now, all these may sound a lot, and the areas that European Union has a say and interest are even more. So there are a number of key areas. So European Union creates, has opinion and is trying to create policies in single market, in customs, in competition, employment, transport, you name it. Now, all these areas of interest need a way, need an instrument to create something. So European Union has a number of policy instruments, because without these policy instruments, all this willingness to evolve and all this willingness to have a say would be nothing more but words. So the policy instruments are nothing more than the legislation. And in fact, this is the same case as in all our countries. We have legislation to promote our policies. And we have, of course, EU standards. Now, EU standards, you all understand more or less what it is. It's a way to standardize the way the industry works. To support these policies, this legislation and the standards, we have, of course, the funding programs. And this is why we are here, because the Horizon Europe is one of the biggest funding programs in Europe at the moment. I would say in the world, but the United States has just announced a funding program for research in 3 times the size of European Union, so I will not say that anymore. So let's see how this works. What's the process? How do we come from these priorities into a grant? So as I already explained, we have these EU priorities, and we have a budget, in European Union, and this budget is discussed every 7 years. So we have a multi-annual financial framework. This is what it calls. This is what it is called, and we have funding programs to support these priorities. Horizon Europe is, as I said, one of them. Now, in order to give details and quantify what we want to achieve with Horizon Europe, we have a strategic plan. Now, this strategic plan does not cover the full period of Horizon Europe. It covers the first half of it. And this is done because at the middle of the program, we do an interim report, we do an interim analysis, so we see if all the actions and all the initiatives and all the calls achieve their goals, or we need to do something differently. So we do this interim impact analysis, come with some conclusions, and then a new strategic plan is being created. Of course, mostly it will be an update of the current one, so it will not be something out of something completely different, but it will have a few adaptations, probably a few new initiatives, a few new suggestions. So, EU priorities, Horizon Europe strategic plan. This is in fact a document which you should read. And this document, this Horizon Europe strategic plan, is further analyzed into work programs. Now, work programs are only good for 2 years. So every 2 years, we publish a work program which details all the actions, all the activities, all the calls that are going to be announced. And it does that by thematic priority. So there is a work program for health, there's a work program for digital and industry, and of course, there is a work program for security, for civil security and society. And this is what Ayosa will talk about later on in his session. Now, these work programs, of course, are organized into thematic priorities. They include the rules, the eligibility, selection criteria, award criteria. So how you, if you are eligible, can you submit a proposal? Can you participate in that? Can you get a grant? All these details that you need. Once work programs are published, then we have a call for proposals. Now, bear in mind that at the moment, we only have the leaked work program for security. So the final work program isn't announced, but we believe that there will not be any major changes. In fact, the delays that we see in Europe are mostly political delays related to the participation of Britain and a few other associated countries. I don't think Turkey is one of them. I think the major problems at the moment is with Britain, Israel, and Switzerland. However, once work programs are adopted and finalized, then we will see soon the call for proposals in the funding and tender portal of European Union. Now, these proposals, these calls can be in either 1 or 2 stages. So in one stage, you submit a shorter proposal, and then if you're successful, you go into the second stage. They will contain, of course, all the details. They will give you the specific aims, the objectives, the rules, the specific rules for each call, and so forth. Once these proposals are out, you are ready to submit your proposal. You have about, I believe, 4 months from the moment a call is announced till you submit your, till the deadline of submission. And by the deadline, you need to submit your proposal into a specified template for which Diamandis will also has a very detailed presentation later on. The full procedure is digital. I suppose that more or less you know that, since I saw that a lot of participants have already experienced on that. However, we have a new template. With some important changes in it, and I think you should pay attention to that. Now, the evaluation selection is again more or less the same as we had in Horizon Europe. Independent experts evaluating your proposals. Then we have a grading, we have a consensus where the experts agree between themselves for the grading, we have a panel review, and then we come up with a reserve list of successful proposals, and participants are notified and they receive the evaluation summary report, which explains if they are successful, what they did well, if they are not, what they didn't. And then, of course, we are invited to a grant. Now, I talked before about the Commission priorities. I think it is worth examining them. Keep in mind that these Commission priorities are very important for all calls, and you should always have them handy. And these priorities usually, it's a political thing, and every time there is a change in leadership in Europe, like now we have underlined the new administration, of course, in deliberation with European Parliament and the Council, creates and publishes these priorities. So for the next 6 years, these are the priorities of Europe. And you will see that they're not much changed than the priorities of the previous administration. Of course, we still want to make Europe greener. We still want to make Europe fitter for digital age. So we're talking about climate change, environmental sustainability, digital transformation, just economy, economy that works for people. But you will also see the ambition of Europe to have a stronger say in the world, to promote the European way of life, the rule of law, justice, and core values, and to try for a new push for European democracy. Now, these, especially these priorities, are all closely related to the civil security and society. So these are the priorities that you should always have in mind and try to address as you work on your proposals. And on top of that, of course, we have a mission. We need to create the necessary requirements, the framework to recover after COVID-19. And this is the recovery plan for Europe, what is being called the Next Generation EU, which works in synergy with Horizon Europe grants. A few numbers. We have these policy priorities, and then we have the strategic plan. So imagine that these policy priorities are being further explained and justified in the strategic plan. And from there, we get the key strategic orientations and impact areas and the expected impacts. Now, most of you are experienced with Horizon 2020, so you will know the importance of impact in all proposals. So this impact is now even more promoted, and in fact, in the strategic plan, you will see what Europe expects from the proposals. And they have organized that under specific key strategic orientations, and we'll see later on what these key strategic orientations are. Again, you will see that there is a box, the strategic plan. You will find detailed for these key strategic orientations in this document, the strategic plan document. Now, these activities, these impacts and expected impacts and impact areas are linked to the work program. So in the work program, we have the destinations. Ilknur talked about just destinations, mentioned them as well. So from strategic plan, we evolve into specific calls and specific activities that will do something to address the impact areas that we want and to achieve the certain outputs and the expected impacts that we want to achieve. So just to have in mind some numbers, we have 6 priorities of the EU, the ones that I presented in the previous slide. We have 4 strategic orientations. Next slide that I'm going to present. And these are analyzed into 32 expected impacts under 3 pillars. These are the 3 pillars of Horizon Europe. And we have 6 clusters and 34 destinations. Now, you may be confused with all these numbers, but you will soon realize that nothing more, just that numbers. This is the structure of Horizon Europe. I'm sure that we have already seen it. So where is security? It's in pillar 2. You will see somewhere in the middle in clusters, we have civil security for society. There are some changes between Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe. The main change is that in Horizon 2020, we had the industrial leadership pillar. And under that pillar, we had the key technologies for Europe, along with innovation and activities for the SMEs, like the SME instrument together. And societal challenges, so the security calls for Horizon Europe were under pillar 3. Now, security along with key technologies came under pillar 2. So we have global challenges now and European industrial competitiveness under pillar 2. And everything related to SMEs is under pillar 3. So innovation, European innovation ecosystems, EIC, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, everything that involves around SMEs, and the previous SME instrument is under pillar 3, the Innovative Europe. Security is under pillar 2 as cluster 3. You should also note that this whole process was a co-design process. And I'm referring to co-design because I believe it is useful for you to consider using it in your proposals. It is something that the European Commission really likes to see. And what is co-design? It's just an approach to design where you actively involve all the stakeholders in the design process. And this is happening in order to help ensure that the results meet their needs and are usable. So whenever you want to suggest something, whenever you want to suggest a new idea, to conceptualize something, to ideate something that will evolve into a project, I think that it is good to include in your proposal some sort of a co-design process. And I have deliberately added this slide here because I believe it covers all the aspects of the design process. Now, co-design process was also followed in the strategic plan, and that happened through surveys. So the Commission sent more than thousands of surveys all over Europe, and they received 8,000 responses asking what would you like to see in Horizon Europe, how did you implement Horizon 2020, what were the problems, things like that. So They did that because they want to enlarge ownership of the program, and the more you are involved in the design of the program, the better the final results are. One of the biggest kind of workshops, or let's say events in this process, was the European Research and Innovation Days. It happened, it took place first time in 2019. TÜBİTAK and our team was there. It was a very interesting event, very enlightening, but not what we expected. So at that event, it was mostly discussing, so we didn't get any answers. We just gave feedback. This event took place also in 2020 online, and it will take place again next month, 23rd and 24th of June. I strongly recommend it to all of you. It's open, it's free of charge. You can follow it online. There are almost 6 or 7 channels in parallel, so you can definitely find the channel that interests you. You will listen commission officers, project officers, people working with proposals, researchers, industry decision makers. You will get a first-hand idea of what to expect and how you can better position your organization into the program. Now, let's see what these key strategic orientations that we already talked about are. As I already said, these orientations mirror the political priorities of European Union. And when you read this text in the 4 boxes, you will see a lot of overlaps. Now, the way I understood them is that A is about digital transformation, B is about environmental protection, C is about sustainable development, and D about resilience and inclusiveness. That doesn't mean that they are restricted there, but these are their main focus. So if you read the strategic orientation A, you will read about digital enabling and emerging technologies. You will read about value chains, digital and green transition. So here is the overlap between C and A and B. Similarly, if you read B, you will see that the objective is restoring ecosystems and biodiversity of Europe, managing sustainability. So a lot of overlaps with sustainable development of key orientation C. Resilience and inclusiveness, I would say, has synergies with all of them, because you cannot really do anything without a resilient and inclusive and democratic society. So you will see again a lot of overlaps here. You can read at the final sentence about healthcare, about empowering all citizens to act in the green and digital transitions. Which of these orientations are of interest for security calls, for security proposals? A and D. Every orientation has a number of impact areas. So these are defined. And by the way, the text from these slides is taken directly from the strategic plan document, which you can read in detail. So we have specific impact areas in strategic orientation A. We look into competitive and secure data economy, in industrial leadership, cyber, secure digital technology, digital services for all. And if, as you see in the table below, there are calls that address these impacts in 5 clusters. In security, we're looking into cybersecurity, privacy, protection of personal data, fundamental rights, and all that. Orientation B, we don't have any security related actions, neither we have in orientation C, but we do have in orientation D. And if in orientation A, we're learning about cybersecurity and digital security. Now here we are more focused on physical security, so free movement, integrity of Schengen area, civil security, border management, disaster risk, migration, asylum, maritime security, early warning systems. All these you can imagine that are part of the calls that address these specific impact areas. So making Europe better prepared for emerging threats. COVID-19 was such a threat. Nobody saw it. Nobody was well enough prepared. Creating a secure and open and democratic society, creating good health and high quality, accessible healthcare for our citizens, growth, new jobs, etc. I now want to touch on some new approaches on impact, because we saw how important is impact for both Horizon Europe and Horizon Europe 2020 and Horizon Europe. So there are some new ideas of and instruments of European Commission to help achieve better impact and maximize the impact. So we now have a new initiative called European Partnerships. And in fact, these are EU private and or public joint research activities. Can be confounded or co-programmed activities. And I just give you here a few examples. So we have a European Partnership for Artificial Intelligence, Data and Robotics. So this European Partnership will work on that area. We have a European Partnership on Water for All, water security, on open science. We have plenty. You can easily find them in the strategic plan and into Commission's portals. Now, we also have a new concept. We have the European Horizon missions. We have 5 missions that address global challenges. These are very ambitious, very inspirational. So we want to fight cancer. We want to adapt to climate change. We have a mission on ocean, seas, and water. We have another mission on climate neutral and smart cities, and one in soil health and food. Not many things are announced yet on missions, although we do know a few things, but think of them as more to the point and focused work programs. International cooperation is another area where EU funding meets with collaboration and research innovation activities from third parties. So in here, the goal is to align global efforts and investments, do some science diplomacy probably, find out synergies with the external policy of EU. And the idea is to combine a number of instruments to create international mobility and cooperation in frontier research. Marie Skłodowska-Curie, for example, is a good example on that. Build multilateral alliances in climate change, in sustainable food, biodiversity, involve third countries and regions, Africa, North America, Latin America, reinforce strategic levels of cooperation. We also have 8 horizontal topics. These topics are also very important to all programs, and they are relevant to all program components. They are identified explicitly in the strategic plan, and they should be addressed appropriately in all proposals. I start with the 4 which were more or less already known. So we were dealing with social sciences and humanities in Horizon 2020. This time we see integration of SSH in all clusters, in security cluster as well. They are a key component of, and they should be a key component of research and innovation. You will see many calls where specific topics will be flagged, and we usually have the need for some kind of assessment of the societal impact. So you suggest a proposal that may has an impact on society, like privacy, for instance, then you should make sure that you assess that impact in your proposal. Dissemination and exploitation, it goes without saying. We all know how important that is. One thing that it is even more important in Horizon Europe is to design the project beyond its end. So you need to think from the beginning how you're going to exploit and commercialize the project that you are suggesting. If you don't think that, then probably your project will not be successful enough. And I'm talking mainly for research and innovation actions, which have a technology level readiness level closer to 9. Key enabling technologies, again, advanced manufacturing, artificial intelligence, micro and nano electronics. You will see these in every pillar across the thematics, and you should address them appropriately. Same with social innovation. We need to address this issue in all strategic orientations, and always keep in mind how the social aspect of our innovation will be perceived from society, and if our innovation has any significant social impact. Gender equality, it's one of the new horizontal aspects, the issues, the cross-cutting issues that we need to consider. It will be mandatory for all organizations after 2021 calls in 2022 to have a detailed plan for gender equality and inclusiveness. And the goal is to eliminate gender inequality, address some biases, unconscious biases, systemic barriers, and then integrate the gender dimension into our proposal. We are going to organize specific events about that. Things are still evolving into gender equality. We are following them, and probably within July, probably at the latest September, we are going to organize dedicated training on gender equality. Ethics and integrity is another major cross-cutting issue. We need to make sure that our research follows the code of conduct of research integrity. We comply with and respect ethics principles and the legislation, and we always think and consider and address the ethical dimension of the new technologies that we are suggesting. More importantly, and something that it's new to Horizon Europe, whenever you do something like that, you need to consider developing training and educational material that can be repurposed, reused in other projects or in other environments. And you should try to design your proposals with privacy and ethics in mind. So privacy by design. Open science, also very important to create freely and accessible scientific publications and make sure that research results are available, they are reproducible. We have new tools now like the European Open Science Cloud. We recently organized 2 events on open science, a general information training event, a short webinar, and more in-depth two-day focus group training on that. Both events are available into our website. You can watch the recordings, you can see the presentations. They are very interesting events, especially to researchers that work in these areas. Finally, we have a new EU taxonomy, and this is nothing new other than a classification system, a list of environmentally sustainable economic activities. So what European Commission is trying to do is trying to create a taxonomy, a new list of activities that will be sustainable. And they made the 6 categories under which they are doing so. It's the 6 categories that you can see. So climate change mitigation, adaptation, protection of water and marine resources, circular economy, so forth. Again, we don't have a lot of information for this issue as well, but the Commission is currently preparing an IT tool that will facilitate the use of this taxonomy and will allow users to navigate easily through this taxonomy. I think that you need to consider that as another way of responding where what you are doing, and maybe classifying your actions in a way that fit into this framework. More or less, this is what I had to tell you about the strategic plan. I use this slide to give a good starting point to Diamandis, because he will talk about the work program, and then Aliosa about the specific calls. So when we're talking about a work program, then you should keep in mind that we're talking about certain documents. So these documents start with a strategic plan, and then we have the work program. The work program for 21-22 has a number of annexes. So we have the general intro, where you can find the general introduction, some eligibility criteria, award criteria. Then you will find the proposal template, the model grant agreement, and of course, we have work programs for each thematic area. So at the moment, we have the work programs for Marie Skłodowska-Curie, for research infrastructure. We have the work programs for 6 clusters, for EIC and widening. Some of them are finalized, like the EIC. These are published. Some of them are leaked. So they're not yet adopted by the Commission, but they are fairly reliable drafts to work with and have an idea. And what do you need to do in order to prepare yourself? Study the policies, the strategic plan analysis, the work program, identify your call, study carefully the texts, and then start building your proposal. And you start building your proposal using the new proposal templates, for which Diamandis will tell you more in the following session. These are all the things that I wanted to talk about, from how we get from policies into calls, the position, the Commission priorities, the strategic plan, the co-design process, strategic orientations, and impact and horizontal topics. I think that these are enough for now. I don't want to take any more of the time from my other speakers, but I don't know if there are any questions that we would like to answer. Diamandis.
I see there are no other questions, but I'm afraid, because I know that you will be not available to stay with us for the roundtable discussion. I would like to ask you a question that I had in mind also to discuss with you in case you were able to stay with us in the roundtable discussion. Your last but one slide, if you can show this again to us, about studying the policies.
Yes.
And I now see also there is a question. And the question is, hi, you mentioned AI, technology and orientation A. Can you explain this a little more? Did you mention the development of artificial intelligence technologies for specific tasks?
I mentioned artificial intelligence as a technology that has a major, let's say, place in orientation A and probably in other orientations as well. There will be specific calls for artificial intelligence, but that doesn't mean that you cannot include artificial intelligence or, for that matter, any other key technology in other calls. So I'm sure that Aliosa will talk about specific calls that are more related into blending artificial technology, artificial intelligence with security. But my point was that there will be calls for the development of AI technologies addressing this specific issue, but there are also opportunities to work on artificial intelligence, even if the proposal does not explicitly mention artificial intelligence. Maybe you have a great idea and you can use artificial intelligence to improve it. The fact that the proposal text, the call text, does not explicitly mentions that doesn't mean that you cannot use it. Doesn't mean that your proposal shouldn't include it.
I think this covers the question well. My question to you was that all these, which is a little rhetoric, in which respect that all these three tasks, to study the policies, to identify a relevant call, and to start building the proposal, the consortium, I think that they are activities that have to take place with other people. So it's something that the success, perhaps the success factor is on how much a company or an organization can co-create with other organizations, either from the same country, so in our case, Turkey, or from all over Europe, which means that to have someone studying the policies on his or on her desk, and then identifying the call and start building a proposal on themselves, has high risks, while if you share your ideas, your knowledge, and check it also with other people's knowledge, you may increase the value of the effort, and even if you fail, you may have already built a network. So do you think, Odysseas, that these activities are worth to be conducted also as part of a network of
every such activity? It's you should create a network and work with the network. I mean, the whole idea of Horizon Europe is to collaborate. I mean, if you take out the EIC, which is more focused in SMEs, and there usually SMEs go alone, although we have consortia there as well. In all the rest thematics and all the rest pillars, we talk about collaborations. And I had deliberately added this co-design process because there is no co-design.
I remember this slide before, yeah.
There isn't any co-design if you don't have a network. I mean, what's the point of co-design? You don't co-design yourself. You co-design only with others. So, and we, in previous webinars and in previous presentations, when we were talking about proposal preparation and working on preparing a concept, we always talked about building a network, building a team. That team can start from your own organization. You cannot do it alone. It can be 1 or 2 people. And then you find another 2 people from another organization, another 2 from another organization, and you start working with them. Studying the policies is one thing, but beyond that, once you start ideating and conceptualizing your ideas and creating some concepts, you need other people to do that. You need a team.
Yeah. Thank you, Odysseus, both for your presentation and for this comment and this answer now. So now
of course, just one comment. I will be happy to respond to any questions even later on. I mean, if there is any specific questions, we have the help desk, which we can also use. We have all the presentations there and the videos of this and all the other training events that we are organizing. And you should stay in touch. You should follow this page because we are planning a lot more events in the following months.
Okay, thank you, Odysseus. And now I take over with the next presentation, and I will share my screen with you. And it is about the calls, and mainly it is about the proposal documents and the new proposal templates. And actually, the topics that we should cover in this second session are the work program and the call documents, admissibility, eligibility of the organizations, financial and operational capacity, award criteria and procedure, proposal template, and the model grant agreement. Now, all these things to fit into the 45 minutes might be a challenge on its own. So I consciously, deliberately, purposefully decided to give focus on some aspects and go more in depth and elaborate than covering many of them and staying only on the surface. I think that this will be more useful for you also in retrospect, but also during this session. And you are welcome to make questions. Kemal, if you spot any questions, because I'm now sharing the screen, so I'm not able to check the dashboard for questions, feel free to interrupt me dynamically and ask me the question so that it will not take place after 20 minutes when the people may have also forgotten what they asked for. The structure and format of the part that is related with the proposals and the new proposal template, I will briefly introduce you to the context, and then we can have a look together about the deficiencies of the old proposal templates and the comparison of the old to the new, and some suggestions on how to proceed, and some conclusions and takeaway messages. Some of the conclusions will base on anecdotal evidence from my side, which means that I think that it's not a bad idea to provide also some more personal touch about what I'm discussing and presenting. And first of all, about introduction and context setting. Templates are important. They are not only a technicality, because they are the medium that we use to convey our message. So we have to be comfortable, familiar with this medium, and make the best and the most out of it. And there is a saying about form follows function, which is mainly related with architecture, but it's the same also here, that the form that these new templates are allowing us to follow will also provide us the means to make the best of the functionality of these templates so that we have hopefully successful proposals. There are some trade-offs always, and some template might be looking or sounding like more scientific, or too much industry related, or too much like a sales pitch. I have some examples later. And the idea is that there is a compromise to accommodate all above aspects, even partially, which means that at the end, a successful proposal will have to be a little like a sales pitch, a little like an industry proposal, and a little bit like a very scientific-oriented application. And of course, we all know that what they say that camel is a horse that has been designed by a committee. So it's therefore that being familiar with a template and know how best to use it will be an advantage for you during the evaluation. So, and what I mentioned there is that with a bad template, several hundreds of people all over Europe will suffer because it will not be a functional template for writing their proposals. And a good template shall help all of us write better proposals, and very important, it will also help us build better learning curves, because currently we are in the beginning of the Horizon Europe. Even this slightly different, though it's not slightly, it looks like a little different from the old templates, but it has some very important changes, which I will describe later. Even this slightly new template will be for some people a problem because they will have not managed to familiarize themselves with this, which means that the first times that they will submit proposals, these may fail. While the earlier you will familiarize with the new proposal templates, you will be better positioned to have winning proposals. And if you look into some statistics, there are organizations that fail to win proposals in the beginning of a framework program, so be it now Horizon Europe or in the past Horizon 2020 or in the past FP6, FP7, and they were slightly increasing their learning curve because they got more and more familiar with the new templates. But being ready and submit good proposals from the very beginning is for sure a competitive advantage. There is no doubt about it. Deficiencies of the old templates. Okay, this is how the old templates looked like, and we were supposed to present the objectives, scientific, technical objectives, and then we needed to describe the relation of our objectives with the work program, the core topics, and we had to present the concept of our proposal, and then, as you see, the objectives and the concept were in different sections, which means that for any proposal, before starting naming the specific objectives, one may have needed to put 1 page, 2 pages about the concept of the project, which means that at some point you needed to present and describe the concept before the objectives. And then there was a section, a dedicated section about concept and methodology, where you have again to present the concept. And then one had to present the methodology of the project. And at the end, for the excellence part, you had to present the ambition, how you go beyond the existing state of the art. Now, the thing is that people were enforced, so to say, to put focus and more importance, pose more importance in writing their objectives, disconnected from the concept. And the methodology that they had to present, sometimes they presented something like a preamble to the work plan that they had in section 3. Some other times, many consortia were providing some general information about use of agile methodologies or the spiral model of how work will take place. So it was at some point not providing too much value-added information in the methodology section as it was in the old templates. But we all got comfortable with these templates because we lived with these templates for now 6-7 years. So now comparing the old and the new. The old proposals, we were supposed to write 70 pages. The new proposals are only 45 pages. This seems like an improvement, but there is a price to pay. Sometimes we may all know that to write something in 2 pages is more difficult than to write it in 10 pages, which means that we have to now more cautiously use the available space. The old template, the section 1, it contained 4 subsections: objectives, relevance to the work program, concept and methodology, and ambition. The new one has only two sections. But again, here, the way that these 2 new sections are organized, actually, section 1 includes organically 3.5 parts of the old template, because it has to include the objectives, the relevance, the concept from the third section, and also the ambition. And about section 2, the impact, which was extremely important. In the past, it had only 2 sections. Same is also the case now, but there is a new section that has been added, which is the impact canvas, the impact summary. It's very important. I will present later some more information about this. And about implementation, it had 4 sections, as we all remember. Now it has only 2. And as you may remember, the project management section. It was something that we all religiously copied and pasted stuff from some other proposals, and sometimes we paid some extra effort to customize this section. Some other times people were actually even not caring to check for the acronym, so you were reading the project management section of proposal X, and you were seeing there people were mentioning project Y or Z from some other past proposals. So this section now has been left out, and it was an improvement, because even from the time perspective, it needed some people to spend 2 hours or 5 days for something that was not value added. So I see there are 2 questions. Now I'm happy that I can get this information from the panel. Ahmed asks me, is there a ready sample proposal sample as a guidance for helping the people? Yes, there is. And I can, either you can send me an email, or I think with Kemal, we can add these in the help desk so that you can download it. It is actually one of the not officially communicated documents, but it has been leaked. And it is the same. Actually, I checked it also yesterday. There was only one version of this proposal template. So there was no other improvement. And my feeling is that this will be also the final version that will be officially for circulation. So on this, either send me an email, or I will ask Kemal to put this on the help desk. So about the impact canvas. Perhaps it's the most new, innovative, game-changing part in the new template. And some prehistory. And we now, all of us know the business model canvas of Osterwalder. And it was an innovation at the time that it appeared. And the idea there was to provide information in such a structured form, which became more and more popular nowadays. And for instance, the Horizon Results Booster of the Commission uses 2 other canvas-like templates. It's the Lean Canvas and the Value Proposition Canvas. So I have them as examples here. So again, the idea is that one has to provide information in such a structured form. Same also for the Value Proposition Canvas. Now, the Horizon Europe Impact Canvas, it is meant to be a summary. So it's not only about impact. It has 6 parts: the needs, the results, the dissemination, exploitation, communication measures, the target groups, the outcomes, and the impacts. This is something like whatever proposal we are going to think about, start working and preparing for. These are 6 components that we have to address. As a summary, which are the needs that we respond to, which are the results we are going to provide for the project, which will be the dissemination, exploitation, and communication measures, instruments we will employ, the target groups, the outcomes, and the impacts. And to see is to believe. So this is from the template, Ahmed, regarding your question. This is the template. This is an excerpt from the official template that has been leaked, and it includes this example here. So this is not something I invented. It is the officially, so to say, developed example from the Commission side. And we see here, for instance, about specific needs. It is about a hypothetical example about airports, and the results, same again, it is about which are the results that our fictitious hypothetical project will deliver, and the dissemination, exploitation, communication measures, again, which are the steps that we will take to disseminate and communicate our results. For instance, the first example relates to something that relates to exploitation. So the idea is that we will build some algorithm and we will then patent this algorithm. While for the dissemination, we will produce some scientific publications. And the communication for the citizens, it will be some events in shopping malls. Okay. And the other 3 components are the target groups, the outcomes, and the impacts. So which are the target groups that we have, the outcomes that relate to the project, and the impacts that we foresee. Now, the basic notions, as you see, are these 6 basic notions. And one may start trying to configure their responses and answers from the needs. So for me, it might be easier to start from the needs. I have an idea about a proposal, and I start the narrative from the needs. Someone else might feel more comfortable to start from the outcomes. Someone else might prefer to start from the results, which means that whatever you use as a starting point, you have to connect it with all the other components, which means that it's out of question that I will have in mind to build hypothetically a proposal about new generations of AI algorithms that manage to dynamically anonymize information if it's not security relevant or cybersecurity relevant. But if it is security relevant, so identified like a potential threat, information is not anonymized. So this is a hypothetical idea for a future proposal. It still is in the area of cluster 3. And then once I have it written down, I have now to see there, where should these results be applied? Which needs we might satisfy? And the needs might be, of course, related to the target groups. For instance, it might be that law enforcement agencies might be happy to use some technology like this because they have some needs. So once I have defined the results, I can come to define the needs and also the target groups. And once I have defined the results, needs, and groups, I may also describe the impacts, the outcomes, and also the dissemination, exploitation, communication measures, which means that these parts have to be like the sides of a cube, that one has to go from the one to the other, and there should be some continuity and consistency. This is a very important aspect. Some final remarks for the impact canvas. It's not as easy as it seems. It's not only about the Horizon Europe impact summary and impact canvas, it's about Osterwalder's business model canvas, the lean canvas, the value proposition canvas. So it is a pity how comfortable we feel when we look at canvas structure, and it's a pity again how difficult it is to fill it out with good information. And it needs hands-on practice. And don't forget, practice makes the master. And ideally, it should be composed with interaction amongst your partners. So it's not a solitary activity. And from my side, I have tried several approaches. One approach that you can apply is that for a proposal you are discussing, you might ask all people in a group to fill out the canvas on their own and then to consolidate them. Other people might prefer to organize something like a workshop physically taking place or over Zoom, so that we might use post-it notes to put there in different colors for the different segments. So the thing is that it's not as easy. You may have fun in such a workshop, but then you see there that you filled out a canvas, but with not very convincing arguments. But you had a good time, okay? But still, as I mentioned, it is something that looks easier than it is. And it needs time. So it's not wise to leave it for the last moment. Because from the information I receive, there is too much inertia for people to start preparing their proposals. And even better, what I would suggest is that it is ideal to start your proposal from this section. Because it is usually, we have been preparing outlines of our projects that were 2, 3, 5 pages. So instead of writing a project outline of 3 or 5 pages, the way we did in the past, now the impact summary, the impact canvas, is an ideal vehicle to present everything there, because we will address all these 6 aspects, and then we may elaborate on them in the different sections of the proposal. So it's really very useful if you exactly see the opportunity that you have. Some other points of the new template, and about the new section 1.1, it combines and integrates the following parts of the old template. The old section 1.1, the objectives, the old section 1.2, relation to the work program, the old section 1.3a, which was about the concept of the project, and the old section 1.4, ambition. So it seemed like a very ambitious way to put all this information into a new section. And all these in only 4 pages. Of course, in the template, it mentions this as a suggestion, which means that there would be no problem if you would provide 5, 6 pages, 7, 8. But the fact that they mention the suggestion of 4 pages is important to take into account. Why I'm saying this? Because, as we all remember, in the past, all these sections here were taking much more pages than 4. So I would like to ask someone, perhaps Alyosa, from your experience, this may have been taking even 20 pages or 25 pages sometimes. So objectives may have taken 6 pages because they contained also some few information about the proposal, the overall idea. And then the relation to the work program, we had a table there, which took several pages, sometimes 3 pages. because the call topics, the text about scope, challenges, impacts were long. And we had in the first column what the call asks for, and in the second column, how we were responding to the call. Please, Ayosa, you would like to say something?
Yes, just to say that very often this is a consequence of, let's say, proposal being too democratic and trying to put everything from each partner, all contributions from each partner. So when the coordinator is not is not strong leader, then it's just integrating all the possible inputs, and then you have enormously long section, and this is now maybe opportunity, I would say, for more dictatorial approaches, where the coordinator or the leader or scientific or technical leader needs to cut and really reduce this to the best contributions.
Thank you. And actually, what you said might have been interpreted in a controversial way, but I get fully the point, because at some point it's not the way we build consortia, the way we write proposals. It's not necessarily that there is too much, there are too many degrees of freedom. It's only that sometimes people don't know how to deal with all these degrees of freedom, which means that to stay in what you mentioned, Ayosa, before, is that democracy needs also some training, which means that if people are not used in the price of failing with proposals that costed too much time and devotion, at the end, they will simply be reserved and hesitant to allow other people too many degrees of freedom. So it's not that at the end one has to be dictatorial. It's only that one has to respect the resources and the time that an organization or a company, a university, it's not a matter of for-profit or not for-profit. Time is expensive for all of us that we are involved in this context. So to continue, what I was saying is that these 4 pages of the new template, in the past, we may have had even 20 pages. So to bring content that in our old proposals, some of them were submitted even some months before. So in the European Green Deal calls of January 2021, we use the old templates, and we may have had a proposal that contained all this information in 20 or 25 pages. And now there may be a relevant call for the first call of Horizon Europe, and we need to bring this only to 4 pages. It's not easy as an exercise. It might be too difficult, and one might need to rewrite everything from scratch. And it is for this reason that I mentioned before, please think about starting your proposals from the impact summary, and not as an exercise, how can we shrink 25 pages into 4. Some other points about the new section 1.2 methodology. Same like we have to shrink content that in the old proposals took several pages now to 4 pages, the new section 1.2 is about methodology. And here we have the opposite problem, exactly the opposite. Because section 1.2 methodology corresponds only to section 1.3b of the old templates. And as I mentioned before, this section was never cared much after. Unfortunately, perhaps only the winning proposals had managed this section better, but even from my experience from proposals that I have been winning, acquiring, but also of other people, it was something like a stepchild. So no one may have cared much after it. But apart from this, it also includes references to national or international research, innovation activities, which in the past was under the concept subsection, but this was a small component. and the length now is 15 pages. So one has the opposite problem. One has to fit many pages into 4, and now someone has too much space, a big space for methodology that we may have not had an idea how to fill it out. But if we read cautiously the template, the proposal template document, we can find the answers. Because currently, for both sections 1.1 and 1.2, we need to seriously think on how we are going to build our narratives, which means that now the new proposal templates ask only for 4 pages for the objectives, where we will state how relevant is our proposal with the call, which are the objectives we have in mind, but very briefly, and which is also the concept of our objectives and how we go beyond the state of the art. So if someone starts from scratch, it's not difficult to have this written in 4 pages. And then once we are done with this, we may need to have an elaborate work plan and how we will organize our activities. And this means that after having been very laconic for the objectives, one can elaborate for the methodology, which means that it's good if this new proposal template, you will try to look at it with a fresh approach, not trying to see how we can use recipes from the past. And it's good if you do this not alone, but together with other people, other partners. And especially for section 1.2, it is meant as a preamble to section 3.1, which means that everything that will be reported as part of work packages, tasks, deliverables in section 3, we will present these in form of the methodology here. So there is a direct connection between 1.2 and 3.1. And the term narrative is very important. So there should be a flow there, and it should be convincing, this narrative. It's a pity. I have also a personal comment later about this, but the scientific quality may be undoubtful. But if the narrative is poor, a proposal may have no chance. And this is where many of us feel disappointed and embittered when we receive an evaluation score that we consider it is unfair, and in many cases they are unfair. But as we all know, life is sometimes unfair, but we can engineer also our own good luck. So some conclusions: the new proposal template, as any other template, has to be lived in by the people. And there is a 10,000 hours rule that one, in order to be master for something, has to spend 10,000 hours on it. So even 1,000 hours might be worth to consider as an investment. And less pages does not necessarily mean less effort, quite the opposite. The impact canvas, as I mentioned before, is tricky. It looks simple, but has to be filled out with good quality information. And it can be the starting point of a proposal. I see there is a question. I'm confused about something. For example, if the subject of the proposal is about artificial intelligence, can we write as many methods as we want in the methodology section, provided that they do not exceed 15 pages? Is there a limitation on number of methods? No. Of course, you have to pay respect about the 15 pages. But if I understand correctly your question, let's imagine you have a proposal about artificial intelligence, that you will build some new technology, or you will use some results that come from academic research, and you will now implement them as a system and have some validation. In that case, in the methodology section, you will present not the artificial intelligence method that you are going to build, because this would be subject of the objectives, where you will mention there what is your objective and what is your concept. And your concept is about a new AI methodology. In the methodology section, you will present what is your methodology for the project to deliver this new AI method. I know it might be a little confusing, so you are quite right there, because your proposal is about some AI methodologies, and you have to also present a methodology section with 15 pages. But even if your proposal would be about something totally different, okay, you would still need to have a methodology section with 15 pages to present the methodology. So if it's not clear, the answer, you can come back to me. I will mention my email so that you can write to me, and or through Kemal, you can get in contact with me. Before going to the evaluation part, I would like to mention about the technology readiness levels. The technology readiness levels are not new at all. They have been developed, created, invented in the United States by NASA in the 70s. And in Europe, we discovered them quite late, after 30 years or more, actually, because, no, it was about 40 years. And we started mentioning them in the work programs by Horizon 2020. And there, in many cases, for many core topics, there was an explicit mention that your project should have as a starting point a technology that is found at TRL level X, like 2 or 3, and by the end of the project, you have to bring it at level 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. Now, the thing is that if one would look back, there were some calls that mentioned these explicitly, and there were other calls which ignored TRLs at all. Or there were some calls where TRLs were mentioned en passant amongst other things, or it was only mentioned about which should be the starting point for TRLs or which should be the end point of TRLs, which means that it was something that people did not seem to be very convinced, but it was something like a very fancy addition. Now, the other thing is that the back of the book story from the side of the consortia was that you might have been discussing with people, and if the call demanded that you should start from TRL level 3, people were building a narrative that was reflecting TRL level 3. If they then consider that this is not a good call, we should go to another call that is having more chances that we get funded, they forgot that what they considered before was TRL 3, and they were now addressing something which was TRL 5. Of course, there are some ways to assess which TRL level one's technology relates to, but it's something that would not take place, at least in the face of you writing your proposal, but it's something good to take care after and consider seriously, which means that, for instance, in the question before about the AI methodologies, one should at least have a clear understanding that currently we may have done some research as part of a PhD project, a thesis. We have published also some work, and we have made a prototype. And it's not a trivial question to ask, and actually, it's not a trivial question to answer, because one might not exactly know if what we have is technology concept and some application formulated, or it is also some analytical and experimental critical function and proof of concept. And sometimes, you know, this is the thing. We have these 9 levels, but it's not that someone is 1 or 2. It might be something like 1.8 or 1.2. So the thing is that it's something good if someone can provide some proof that we are serious about exactly the positioning of our offerings, be them technologies or some methodology or some system there, that we know exactly what we talk about. Now, this is the case about evaluation that I would like to elaborate. And so you see here, there is the timeline and proposals are submitted, and from the side of the commission they are received, they are assigned to individual evaluators, then there is a consensus group, a panel review, and then we have the final results that are announced. And this takes 8 months all in all till once project starts. And I would like that I would stay here in the evaluation phase and provide you with some anecdotal evidence, some information. And the idea is that proposals are evaluated against these 3 criteria: excellence, impact, implementation. We may all know that people focus mainly on excellence and implementation. Impact is something that we don't spend serious time on it. We are very happy if we find one person in our consortium to take care for this, and we might only be asked some questions and provide some in some tabular form, for instance, for each partner, which will be our exploitation and dissemination actions. And we write there something like a blurb about journals or conferences. And at some point, this is a part that is not very well cared after. And it's a pity because it has a very high significance in the evaluation. And at some point, same as with the impact summary and the impact canvas, it's a good idea, instead of starting our proposals from excellence or implementation, to start them writing them from the impact section. But this might seem too theoretical because we all end up starting from excellence and then looking after the implementation section. Now, I have some anecdotal evidence of how things actually take place, and there are some stories from the trenches, and I have 2 specific examples. So it's not generic stories, abstract stories. So you will see there a specific case, and one of them is very relevant because it is a story from Secure Societies program in the past, so what we now consider as cluster 3. This is a call of 2016. And I was part of this consortium. It was at the time that I was still in Germany, in the University of Passau. So I feel comfortable to share this information from you. Otherwise, it might not be a good approach to share content that I was not part of. And as you see, it was a proposal. It was called CSRware. If you now Google it, it has been a successful project. It was completed by last August 2020. And as you see, it got a score of 14, which is a very good score. I see now there are some questions. Are we going to access the recorded meeting after this session? I had a connection problem. I think that we will have. Kemal, can you confirm that we can have access to the recorded meeting?
Yes, we are recording now, and we will have actually participants will be able to see or watch our event on our YouTube channel. We already informed them via email. I can also send our YouTube channel's link on chat section for their easy access.
Okay. So now, as you see here, this proposal got as a score 14. So it's close to being the perfect, the most excellent score, which is 15. And as you see, down about criterion number 1, excellence, it got 5. And for the other 2 criteria, it got 4.5 in impact and 4.5 in quality and efficiency of implementation. So you might congratulate me, though with a delay of now 5 years, for having contributed and being part of a very well-written proposal. But this is only one part of the story, because a year before, the same idea had been submitted and it got only 9. So it was a score below the threshold. Okay, the excellence was 2.5, the impact was 3.5, and the quality and efficiency of the implementation was 3. It was still the same proposal, the same core idea. Of course, it is something that one might say it was not as well prepared, or it didn't look as convincing as the next year, for sure. We had 1 year to improve it, take care of many details, reconsider the narrative. So one might consider now that, okay, we can take as a lesson learned that a failed proposal may be all worth to be reconsidered, improved, revamped, refabricated, and be resubmitted. Okay, this is true. But let's see another story. This is not, okay, some comment about this is that there have been changes, improvements in all aspects, the core idea, the consortium, the proposal, but one might ask, did this justify the change in the score from 9 to 14? Okay, let's see. It may have been, one might have thought that we had a more convincing story, a better consortium, a change in the evaluators' attitudes, lobbying, politics, all of the above, none of the above. No one knows. Okay, again, no one knows. All of the above, or few of them, but we don't know which few were the critical factors. And now another case where we have the opposite. We hope for the best, but we get something which is rather worse. And this was not a proposal for the secure societies, it was a proposal for the inclusive reflective societies. And the first time that it was submitted, it got 10.5. So 10.5 is a little bit above the threshold. So there is hope. Someone should not feel like I failed, I got something that is below the threshold, so I should hide myself and never again dare to go and submit a new proposal. So it got 10.5, as you see, excellence 3.5, impact 3.5, and quality of the consortium on the implementation 3.5. Okay, so next year we went again and we got 6.5. So as you see, it's 6.5. It's not something slightly less or slightly more. 6.5. As you see about the scoring, it got 2.5 in excellence, 2.5 in impact, and 1.5 in implementation. A disaster, not a failure, yeah? And I have another more recent example, and this is from a Horizon 2020 proposal. It got a score of 12, and in excellence, it got 4.5, a good score. And then impact 4 and quality and efficiency of implementation 3.5. What happened there? The idea was that, as I mentioned before, in many cases, especially academics, we care mainly about the excellence, and then we start discussing, negotiating about the implementation, the work plans. This is my work package, this is yours, and what I'm doing and what you are doing, and how many months should I have in your work package, and how many months should you have in my work package. The thing is that this had a price, which means that this 3.5 in quality and efficiency of the implementation was because people there cared to build their small houses to accommodate their research plans for the future. And they did not care about the vision of the project and whether their small parts of individual research plans made sense as part of the bigger whole. And this was a price we had to pay. And here I should actually now, Aljosa, you see, there is some time to consider that what you said before was very relevant, that at some point, I was involved in this proposal as a partner, so I was not the coordinator, but I prefer to not speak up and say that, no, this is a serious mistake, and we cannot accommodate and include in our work packages and in our work plan irrelevant parts of research that have nothing to do, that might be used as placeholders and might apply to every proposal that might be submitted in this area. Which means that sometimes being nice or too nice has a cost. And of course, the thing is that what people learn out of it. Sometimes one might say, okay, I prefer to stay silent and not embarrass or make people unhappy. And then I expect that they might learn something. But sometimes it's not a winner's attitude to take care for being too much diplomatic. Again, the question, what happened? There have been improvements in the previous proposal that got from 10.5 to 6.5, but how did it end up in a change from 10.5 to 6.5? Perhaps we should not care much, but otherwise, if we don't care, if we play the game like without any memory, it might be difficult to learn and to increase our learning curve. So at least this is my personal opinion, that at some point the new templates, and also in some other programs, I have an example from the accelerator of the Innovation Council. It's like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, in which respect that the stage seems like a little bit of Dragon's Den, a little bit of Europe is seeking the next top startup. And if you look at this, it is information from the Innovation Council Accelerator Program, it asks people to provide a pitch deck of maximum 10 slides, and then also a video of maximum 3 minutes. And all these together in the first phase of the short proposal. And there, people, again, they are asked to answer these questions. Which maximum, so every question is either multiple choice, or you have to provide till 1,000 characters, which means that there is a shift in general in research funding, even in national level, for national funding. And I think that these people here, this is a famous picture, some of you may have seen it also in the past, it is from the Solvay Conference of Physics of 1925, or I think 1925, and there were people like Schrödinger, Einstein, Marie Curie, Pauli, Bohr, many big names. So if someone would ask these people to resurrect them from the graves that they are now for many years, and tell them that, look, you can apply, there is generous funding, and go apply for it, they might feel very uncomfortable to understand how the game is organized. They might find it extremely difficult, and they might, in many cases, fail. Their proposals would look too scientific, they would lack excitement. I'm sure also Schrödinger might have been criticized because he would not treat well cats in his theory. And the thing is that we have to adapt ourselves as fast to the new modalities. And the new modalities need that, apart from the scientific excellence of some idea, it has to be also promoted and presented in a very convincing and exciting way. Otherwise, it will fail. And this is the first page of Tim Berners-Lee proposal. So let's forget the since long ago dead and buried people from the physics, and let's see now something that happened before 30 years. In March 1989, Tim Berners-Lee submitted a proposal to CERN, his employer at that time, for the World Wide Web. And as you see there, it was assessed as vague but exciting. Nowadays, it would not have any chance at all to be accepted for funding because it would lack many things. Can you imagine now someone asking Tim Berners-Lee to fill out the impact canvas? He built something that he had now to provide information about which are the results. Okay, he had something in mind, but then he should also address target audience and dissemination, exploitation, communication measures, and about the impacts and about outcomes. He might not provide convincing answers. So at some point you see there that there is an inherent difficulty. We may come from different communities, scientists, researchers, industry persons, business people, and we have to care about how we communicate our plans, our research ideas, and how we can promote them. And we have to do it in a way that will be winning. So, same as I said before, it's very important that you become familiar with the new templates. It's a must. The easier and the faster you will get familiar, you will see there that you will have no difficulty in having winning proposals. But this needs practice. So this is my final word. I see that I am 6 minutes late, and I have to thank Kemal for not being harsh with me and interrupting me. I don't see any other questions. So I would then suggest we have now planned a 10 minutes for questions and answers, and then 5 minutes for a short break. Would you like that we have a short break of 8 minutes? As I see there are no answers, and then we can come back. Is it okay for you? And then we start with Ayosa. Ayosa, it's your session after the break, but I think that it's okay if we make an 8 minutes break till 3:45 Turkish time. Okay?
Diamantis, do you want me to reflect your slide questions during the break, or we can leave it after?
We can leave it after, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. I see a question. Okay, I will answer it after your break. So let's have this break. I think that we deserve all to grab a coffee and come back. Okay? So in 7 minutes now, we meet again. 3:45. So we are back, and I think that I can answer now. So now, after you had we all had the break, there is a question from Ahmed. My question is to who decides the threshold levels? What are the criteria? This is actually, I will share again quickly my screen, and this is exactly the case of the different evaluations, which means that at some point there are individual evaluations, and then there is a consensus group where individual evaluations are matched. So it's the usual procedure that takes place also in conferences or in journals with reviews of papers that can take place individually, and then there is a consensus together with the editor. In this case, it is from the commission side, and then it can be the case that the proposal that has been given initially some higher score can be reduced, and vice versa. So this is the case, and these criteria are defined from the beginning, and these are exactly so. In this respect, one might say that the rules of the game are very crystal clear. That excellence means that objectives have to be clearly identified, the proposed work has to be ambitious and go beyond the state of the art, and also if the proposal is sound. Now, what someone may understand under clearly identified or not, or whether something is ambitious or not, is of course subjective. Okay, so. But again, if you have any other questions, please feel comfortable to come back to me. And now I'm very pleased to introduce you to our next speaker, Aljosa Pasic. Aljosa has graduated from the university, the Technical University of Eindhoven, from the electrotechnical faculty, and he has worked for Capgemini in Utrecht till 98, and from 99 he moved to SEMA Group, which is now part of Atos, and he has been having different positions, and currently he works in several EU projects such as the Concordia and the Cybersecurity for Europe project, and he has participated in more than 70 international research, innovation and consultancy projects. I'm very honored, Aljosa, that you have accepted the invitation of the Turkey in Horizon 2020 project to be with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Adamantios. I hope you can hear me clearly. Good afternoon and merhaba to everybody. I think Adamantios mentioned many things, but did not mention that originally I come from Bosnia, and in Bosnia we also say merhaba, like in Turkey. In some parts of Bosnia, they are still, this is a common way to greet people. So let's, I will share my screen. Just let me know if you can see, okay, my presentation.
Till you share the screen, I'm now tempted to make a comment that actually Bosnia, same like Greece that I come from, we were part of the Ottoman Empire, which means that we are aware of working in multicultural, multinational environments some 200 years before European Union was invented or was built. Yeah, so please, Aljosa.
Thank you. So you can see my screen now, right?
Yes, we can see, Aljosa. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We can see.
Okay, I will, because we have a lot of topics to cover, I will be a very brief introduction, and then I will start to move through topics which are specific for this work program, for this cluster, and specifically for the call, which is supposed to be open in June and closing in, we will see later, dates that are now being rumored for the closing date. Just briefly, history of security research and development. So we had, I was involved from the beginning, from the so-called preparatory action on security research. This was not, this was even before a 7th framework program. It was in parallel with the 6th framework program, but it was not part of it. It was called preparatory action, and there was some people that were involved there. Made a couple of topics and proposals were launched in 7th framework program. This was a full topic in the program. What we can learn from so far is that in 7th framework program there were a number of proposals, and success rate, as you can see here, was let's say approximately 1 out of 6 proposals were founded. So in H 2020, the budget was almost the same, approximately the same, but the number of proposals, which I don't have here on slides, I don't have exact number because it's not finished yet. But I think it is almost double the number of proposals submitted. So which means that for the same money, there you have much more competition. And I think in Horizon Europe there will be even more competition, because this is now increasingly well-known program, and it's not like in 2004 or 2007 when there were not many people were aware of these topics. So the success rate is important, and also what was in previous presentation, just to summarize what was said, the impact, it is very important to address properly impact, outcomes and outputs. And here I would like, if you can slide or question, if you can launch here, I will continue to talk while the people answer this question from Slido. There are 3 important differences. The impact is on long term, and you have impact for in introduction section, but you have also in the work program that I will show right now, there are expected impacts per destination, and there are also outcomes mentioned in each of the topics of the call. So impacts is more something on a long term. We've seen from Odysseus' presentation and from also Adamantius that here the European Commission is looking for something more, let's say, higher level of abstraction. Outcomes is more specific for a specific topic, and then we have outputs, which are the project results, basically, and we could map this further into activities and specific inputs like the human resources or pre-existing know-how or infrastructure. So you have basically 2 ways to build this, top down but also bottom up. Some people meet and they say, okay, we have this and this, we have a prototype of these tools from the previous project, we have this know-how, and they try to build the kind of Frankenstein proposal without thinking about possible impact, and then later they start to think about impact. We saw also that this has changed. Now you start, as Adamantius said, now you start with impact canvas. You have to work in both directions, I would say, from top down, but also from bottom up in parallel. A few more things, important issues, policy priorities. In each of destinations, there are different policies which are very important to know. So they are mentioned in the work program. You will sometimes I will, during this presentation, I will refer to them. These are some of them are generally for security union, as it's known, the policy of European Commission, but some of them are very specific for specific destination, even for specific topic inside of destination. To contribute to capacities, capacity building, social compatibility, and technological sovereignty. These are has been mentioned previously, but these are also important, very important in this cluster and in this work program. Work program 2021-2022. So there are 2 different calls. This work program is structured, the document, which is only available in a draft session version. It is structured in, as I said, introduction, and then per destination you have also introduction with specific impacts, and then for each year you have specific topics, list of topics with conditions, outcome, and scope. So it's not much change from the previous. The structure, the names, the terminology is of course new, but the structure is similar. Okay, let's move fast to what is in the call 1 for 2021. It's supposed to open June 30th, but again, we don't know. We don't know because this is the last information I received this week, but and it also says that it could close in 2 different dates, that cybersecurity could close on 21st of October, and the other 5 destinations could close on 23rd of November. Why is this? We have 6 destinations here. They are managed by different DGs in European Commissions. Cybersecurity is managed by DG Connect, while the others are managed by, I think it's DG Enterprise. Okay. So, sorry. Yes. Okay, let's move to the topics. Fighting crime and terrorism is the first destination, and here you have specific impacts which are listed here. You can you will be able to read these in from the work program, but some important differentiators for this topic, which is, by the way, the biggest destination in this call after cybersecurity. This one has more than 50 million. Is the big important thing is to know is the involvement of police authorities. I will mention this in the next slide, but we also need to have in mind that in community of practitioners, which is used to be called community of users, now it's called CERIS, there are many of these police authorities or law enforcement agencies, and there are other places where to look if you need to comply with eligibility criteria. Other recommendations are modularity. There are more, let's say, generic recommendations. If we look at the list of topics, there are many topics, and in each of them there are different eligibility conditions, but police is always, sometimes there are 3 police, or we should properly say law enforcement authorities. So it may be, sometimes it's not even police, sometimes it's a school for the police, for example, which is considered to be eligible. And sometimes there are other type of users like forensic organizations or civil society organizations. We have most of the projects that are aiming at higher TRL and innovation actions, and there are few which is also research innovation action. Okay, so this is a summary. Let's go then for specific topics. The first one is on terrorism and other forms of serious crime countered using travel intelligence. This is around 5 million is destination is envisaged for this topic, but this is only orientative because this budget of 60 million euros will be shared with 2 other topics, namely topic 3 and topic 4 of this destination. So it could be around 5 million. This is a suggested budget. It's innovation action, which means that TRL expected is 6 to 7. As I said before, 3 police authorities from at least 3 different member states. Then we have a number of outcomes. You can see here that you have to contribute, but important thing here is to know what are the passenger name records and advanced passenger information. These are type of data that European Commission would like that research is focused. Also the other data available, but the passenger name records and advanced passenger information are key sets of data. And here somebody was mentioning before artificial intelligence. Here you could apply it is inside of scope to apply artificial intelligence, big data analysis. Blockchain technology is also inside of scope. So different type of technologies to facilitate this data collection and quality check. For example, you can maybe you don't know, but the many air companies, they have to submit when you do check-in, and also when you do actually enter the airplane, they have to provide this passenger data to law enforcement authorities. So here there are many quality errors, which are the data is not properly introduced, etc. This is why I think this topic is also important for the researchers that are working in data management area. Okay, next one. The second one is lawful interception using new and emerging technologies, 5G and beyond, quantum computing and encryption. Again, here the total budget is 5 million. Here is fixed 5 million. It's not approximate. It is research innovation action. Again, 3 authorities, 3 police authorities. You can see the outcomes on the slides, but the scope is about developing and testing software-based communication technologies. So 5G is obvious, let's say, candidate. It is, I think, quantum computers. It's a little bit maybe too ambitious, but it's also mentioned in the scope. You should also take into account the court-proof nature of the evidence, so the legal and ethical rules. So there is also place for this type of stakeholders or partners which are not technical. Okay, let's move to the next one. Disinformation and fake news. Here, there is a list of expected outcomes, and what is expected here is development of tools and forensic capabilities, which are, let's say, that need to enable assessment of the origin, veracity, and trustworthiness. We all know about the fake news and the problems that they cause. So here again, the partners which are from societal sciences, humanities, they are welcome, and they are, I think, they should have big role. Also, it was mentioned that these specific proposals for this topic should build on the previous research. There have been many in the last Horizon 2020 call. There have been several projects financed that are tackling the disinformation and fake news. You should check this proposal, but also this is in a program, by the way, the ICT late program of the H2020, but also there are other calls and clusters that are, for example, in cluster 2, there is a democracy called 2021 number 8, which is tackling politics and governance in a post-pandemic world, and also in online social networks and new media. So in cluster 4, there is also a topic on artificial intelligence to fight disinformation. So what we see here is that in 3 different clusters, and also in H2020, there are proposals and projects with very similar scope. So there should be, when you write proposal, if you write proposal here, you should mention the pre-existing work from H2020, and definitely also maybe mention this possible coordination with the other clusters. Let's move. The topic number 4 is improved access to fighting crime and terrorism research data. Approximate indicative budget is 7 million, but as I said, this topic is sharing the budget with 2 other topics, so it's approximate budget. It's innovation action, which means TRL is high, and one particular issue here is also that the project duration should not exceed 24 months. So this is a short project. This is very specific innovation action project, and besides this expected outcome, you should also take into account that they look for a common data repository, but also to create a kind of governance or a roadmap with clear set of rules, conditions, how to use this research data repository. Very important in this call is privacy and data protection. And again, here could be some kind of coordination needed with Digital Europe program. I will mention this later. But also for the other initiatives, there is one, for example, European Open Science Cloud, which is also building a repository of research data and some lessons, especially I would say governance and roadmap could maybe be based on what they did in this initiative. Next one is, sorry. is on modern biometrics. This modern biometrics used in forensic science and by police. Here, this topic has several expected outcomes that you can read here, and the scope is mainly on testing and piloting the tools which are developed and have biometrics. Some of you will see in the scope some of the different biometrics that has been mentioned, but the main focus would be on scalability and automation of the identification, robustness, validation, so protection of biometric data, usage in smartphones. So there are not on specific modality of biometrics, but more on these issues that are transversal to different modalities, exchange of biometric data, for example, interoperability, etc. What they also mention in this topic is the cooperation with European Network of Forensic Science Institutes, ENFSI, and also collaboration with projects from the topics that I already covered in topic number 4. This network of Forensic Science Institute, ENFSI, you can look at the web pages. There are different national representatives. I did not look if there is a representative from Turkey, but it is welcomed to. When they say it's welcome, it's probably obligatory to include some of the representatives from that topic in this topic. Let's move further. Domestic and sexual violence prevented. This is a topic 6. So this is a quite new topic. There are some of these issues have been already not really covered in the previous projects in H2020, but there is some documentation that you can find on the European Commission website about ending gender-biased violence and what is EU doing in this direction. For example, there is a document called Striving for a Union of Equality, Combating Abuse. So this type of documents, I think, is inspiring this topic and also could be used for the call. Again, the partners which are coming from the societal sciences and humanities are welcome here in this topic. Improved preparedness, then topic number 7, improved preparedness on attacks to public spaces. Here, public spaces are squares, sport venues, shopping districts, the tourist attraction, etc. And I think this was already in previous years. It was quite largely covered topic. We have already some tools that identify vulnerabilities of specific targets. I can mention Protect Cities project. That's one, but there are many others. I think in this topic, it is important to mention this existing project, but also to involve the experts and local authorities, security managers, emergency and health services, etc. Fight against trafficking in cultural goods, topic number 8. This is the scope of this topic outcome you can see here on the slides. And in regard to scope, there are they mention methodologies for data collection and analysis. So many of these goods are from the war zones and from the regions that are in conflict. The satellite images could be used, as well as synergy with topics from the clusters 3 and 2, as well as Digital Europe, or now it's called Digital. It used to be in draft version, it was called Digital Europe. So I think here it is very important to also to focus on international cooperation. And I think this is a topic maybe which is very interesting for Turkish partners. Fight against organized crime. So here, these are expected outcomes. The societal dimension should be here I think also in the core of this. Just a moment, some problems. The focus is on improved tools and innovative training curricula. Then to improve cooperation with third countries and the partners from the international actors. Shaping and tuning regulation related to fines against environmental crime. Okay, so here there is involvement of at least 2 police authorities and at least 2 border guards. The budget is approximately 5 million. In this case, it is shared with topic 10 that I will cover next. And again, it has been mentioned in eligibility conditions that it must make use of Galileo and EGNOS data. So the use of Copernicus, for example, for Earth observation is also encouraged. You will see, by the way, this maybe I did not mention, but this eligibility condition that to use Galileo and EGNOS is quite important in several topics. You should check these eligibility conditions. And TRL here is also very high. I think also in this topic, any problem which is related to waste and polluting substances, the trafficking with the toxic substances, anything is entering within the scope of this topic. Again, synergies here are mentioned with cluster 3. With digital program, but also with EU policy cycle. This is called Impact, and you should check the website of this policy cycle Impact. Next one is number 10 topic, fight against firearms trafficking. Again, it's around 5 million. It's the budget shared with the previous topic. There are eligibility criteria are very similar. So 2 police authorities, 2 border guards, use of Galileo and EGNOS, recommendation for Copernicus. So this is, let's say, the twin of the previous topic. In scope, we have here possibilities of safeguarding the legal market and preventing use of, for example, 3D printed firearms. I don't know if you've heard stories already that is possible with the plastic firearms. You could already there was a case that attack was in United States. Of course, this was done with the 3D printed firearm, which do not have trace, do not have ballistic. They are not in the databases, so they are, let's say, more difficult to track. Developing solutions to facilitate and approximate systematic collection on data and trafficking of firearms, and again, a synergy with Cluster 3, with Digital Europe, and with EU policy cycle. Next call, 11, is prevention of child sexual exploitation. Again, this is a topic which is not, at least I have not seen it in previous framework programs. Its budget is around 3 million. It is shared, 6 million shared with the next topic, number 12. So it is approximate budget. And it is, again, asking for 2 police authorities, but here is also at least 2 civil society organizations that should be involved. I think this is where the societal dimension is very important. Also, I think what is in the scope is what triggers the behavior of the potential offenders. So which approaches to look to address their behavior. You can look at some document related to this at the webpage of European Commission Migration and Home Affairs. So there is a document communication from the Commission about fight against child sexual abuse, and I think this is important also to read for these proposals in this topic. The next one is online identity theft. Online identity theft is countered, is sharing the budget. So it's a 3 million, sharing the 6 million budget with the previous topic. what is here, I think, important is again to develop technological means of detecting deep fakes in support of the police. So involvement of social sciences, but also social sciences basically to analyze the trends. So who are the victims of identity thefts? What do people believe? For example, you have a lot of these videos where they manipulate the famous person, actors, singers, and how this spread, how these deep fakes spread over the internet, whether the gender or age or ICT skills, do they play a role in spreading these deep fakes? Again, involvement of civil society organizations is important, but also here you can find information on the internet about exploring deep fakes. There was a webinar on this. There's also a Europol webpage for the deepfakes dedicated to this. So a lot of material, I think, to look and to be inspired. The next destination. So this was quite long. I think we will be over time. I hope it's not a problem because there are a lot of topics. The next destination is shorter, so it's about effective management of external borders. Here, I think there are only few topics opened. Well, there are also quite a lot, not less than the previous destination. So let's move fast here. The first one is enhanced security and management of borders, maritime environment, activities, and transport by increased surveillance capability, including high altitude, long endurance aerial support. They like long titles in this destination. I'm not sure who really put this title, but it looks almost like a description of scope. And if you look at the budget, it's 7 million. Only one project is financed. And what is inside of scope, the title is already saying, it's the use of unmanned aerial vehicles, balloons, blimps. There are different types of unmanned aerial systems, but most of all, I would like you to also to look here for the projects that have been financed previously. So there is a one called Border UAS about unmanned aerial system, Raw Border, Arecibo, which is, they are all looking different combination of unmanned ground vehicles, unmanned aerial vehicles. By the way, UAV, unmanned aerial vehicles, are familiarly known as drones. So a lot of projects have been financed, and I think this topic is looking to go one step further on top of, to build on top of the previous projects. Next one is increased safety, security, performance of the European Border and Coast Guard and of European customs authorities. 2.5 million, one project only, but this is a coordination and support action. So this is for coordination and support action, is not so bad budget. It's quite generous. Again, using satellite based images and data, Galileo and EGNOS. You will see this eligibility criteria quite often because Galileo is now entering the full operational capacity. As you know, it has been for many years it has been problematic because it was only partially operational, and now they want really to push for the use of data coming from Galileo, which is a European global navigation system. What is, I think, important in this topic is to stand from the existing, again, from the existing projects, but also from the design of the work, how it is now, of the Coastal Guard, of the Border Guard, to engage with Frontex, with the agency, and coordinate priorities. So here, I think it is quite typical for the coordination action. The next one is improved border checks for travel facilitation across external borders and improved experience for both passengers and border authorities staff. 8 million. So here we have two projects that will be approved. Innovation actions, which means high TRL. Again, eligibility criteria quite similar. And here we have to link with innovation for fighting crime and terrorism. We have also link with biometrics. we should place this in the context of ETIAS. ETIAS is the new electronic visa system that European Union is introducing in 2022. So ETIAS should start in 2022. It is very similar to what the United States have already, which is called ESTA. ETIAS stands for EU Travel Information and Authorization System. And the idea here in this topic, I think, is to have the improvements of this flow of passengers based on the distribution of ETIAS and non-ETIAS passengers, like we had before, different the flows in the airport, European airports, but also to capture and to use biometrics and to use mobile transportable technologies. This is also mentioned in the call. Next one, number 4, is advanced detection of threats and illicit goods in postal and express courier flows. Here, this is 8 million for 2 projects. And here, there was, I remember, one project that we had already in FP6, which was Safe Post, that was working on a concept of postal security target operating model. So I think this is a little bit in this direction to link with, again, with fighting crime and terrorism. It's important, but also to test and validate different tools from the chemical detection or detection of drugs, cash, contraband, counterfeiting items, etc. All the different technologies that from the sensors to risk assessment could enter to this topic. It is also, I think, important here from the policy perspective to check the documentation on customs union, especially on the first phase of the new European Union import system, which is called ICC2, Import Control System 2. So it is, I think, should link to this system. Topic number 5, improved detection of concealed objects on and within the body of persons. Here, 5 million for 2 projects. It's innovation action, so these are rather small projects, but the scope here is to develop solutions to detect objects concealed in person, so hidden objects which are inside of person, avoiding ionizing radiation. So we have in Europe some airports. I can remember Schiphol, which has this a kind of cabins where you have millimeter waves that are part of this electromagnetic spectrums and that are used. In this proposal, they are specifically asking for non-ionizing radiation, which is generally considered safe. And these, at least the one that I know in Schiphol, is of this type of scans, of body scans. So the idea is to maximize the respect of human rights, fundamental rights. So there is also a role for the partners from the societal sciences. Okay, let's move then to next destination. Speed up a little bit. Infrastructure, resilient infrastructures. So we have specific impacts at the level of destination. There are only 2 topics open in the call. Next call. Here, the budget is 10 million. And if we look at the first one, European infrastructures and their autonomy safeguarded against systematic risks, the budget, as I said, is 10 million, but is approximate, which is shared with the next topic. What is inside here is to have the different type of infrastructure, critical infrastructure operators in the consortium from several. It could be energy, water, communication infrastructure, transport. And to focus on hybrid threats, there are a couple of documents explaining what we mean by hybrid threats. There is joint framework on hybrid threats, joint communication, also from European Commission and I think it was, I'm not sure, Joint Research Center or somebody else who was working on this to address systematic risks, looking also risk assessment. It's very important in this topic. If you remember, there is this technology sovereignty issue in the overall impact, and here the safeguarding autonomy is very important, and this issue of sovereignty tools for operational testing for the critical infrastructure operator, and also there is a role for fire and rescue services that needs to be reflected in the proposal, which is I think interesting also. The topic number 2, ensured infrastructure resilience in case of pandemics. Here you can see on the slide, you can see expected outcome. Here it is to pilot the strategies that are developed in relation to pandemics. I can think of one strategy that was a repurposing of manufacturing, which was now with COVID, which was very quickly this strategy was developed and tested. But also on cascading effects of pandemics on different infrastructures. So how is this impacting? Again, we have experience with the COVID. How is this impacting different critical infrastructure? The multiplier of threats. So how is this affecting the other threats besides pandemics? How is this connected with other threats? And increase the use. Cyber risk are mentioned also, for example, and the use of internet infrastructures for teleworking, because as you move from one way of working or using one infrastructure instead of another, there are cyber threats also in the picture. Next destination, as I said, it is managed by DG Connect, cybersecurity. Here there are several topics. These are these are not impacts, but few tips or hints that are important for this. And in digital program, which is not available, but there's only draft of this, there is a whole topic dedicated to cybersecurity. There will be probably some overlap. Also, the digital program is more focused on higher TRL and practitioners, let's say. In some way, it's similar what has been done in Connecting Europe facility. And also another thing which is very important is to connect or to link with what is a European Cybersecurity Competence Center, network, and community. I will spend few more words on this because I think I'm involved in 2 of these projects, Concordia and Cybersecurity for Europe. In total, there are 4 pilot projects. There are many partners across Europe piloting this competence center, network, and community. Competence center will be one. It will be established in Bucharest. It will be operational from 2022, but for the moment, it is they will be established in Brussels, a kind of temporarily competence center. Network is composed of national representatives, one for each country. So there will be network of national nodes of this competence center. And then community will be composed of these 4 projects and maybe more, like EXO, which is public-private partnership, and maybe enlarged in the future also. Why is this important? Because this is a kind of a step towards we mentioned the co-design of the program. Many topics are coming from the research. Many topics that I will cover now are coming from the research roadmap of these 4 projects. So you can look at the webpage of the projects and see which topics are addressed in their research roadmaps. Impacts. Yeah, again, this is on destination level. And quick overview of topics which are open. You can see here there are no specific eligibility conditions. So from that side, there are no requests for participation of police authorities, etc. The first topic, it's on a dynamic business continuity and recovery methodologies based on models and prediction for multi-level security. Here, I think what is in the scope is cyber threat intelligence, situational awareness, so collaboration, data sharing, organizational perspectives related to real-time events. So sometimes, for example, you receive this cyber threat intelligence from outside, but it's important to correlate this with the events coming from the real-time events coming from their own tools like CM or IDS. The needs of the end users and human factors should also be considered. And there are potential links, they mentioned in the call, potential links with topics that have been financed in the previous years, 2018, 2019, 2020, in the infrastructure called. In total, there are 8 projects that have been financed in these topics through 3 years, like EnsureSec, 7 Shields, SATI, Secure Gas, InfraStress. They are all listed. If you go to this topic, Infra 01, 2018, 2019, 2020, you can see the list of topics that have been financed. From the policy perspective, it is important to mention NIS directive and also the NIS 2 directive, which is a kind of upgrade of the previous directive. The next topic is improved security in open source and open specification hardware for connected devices. I just want to check if I can continue, because I think my time is almost finished.
Yes, but also it is very valuable what you are presenting. So please, we will shrink the time from the discussion later. Please.
Okay,
I just feel
thank you.
comfortable.
Thank you, because I really wanted to go into detail. Originally, I was planning only to cover titles of but then I thought, okay, it's better to give more detail.
Yes,
the
please,
next one,
please, by all means.
Okay, improve security in open source and open specification hardware for connected devices. I think here they are talking about IoT, Internet of Things, and restricted environments where, as you know, the Internet of Things, or better to say, things do not have hardware is not allowing for deployment of complex protection schemes. You cannot deploy a very complex cryptography, so there are no trusted platform modules. The sandbox applications in managed memory partitions in this hardware. So they are asking here for open specification hardware and open source things like verification, the security auditing for connected devices, testing in restricted environment, etc. So I think this is a very promising topic that, for example, I can say that it's linked to Concordia research roadmap. That probably comes from there. I'm not 100% sure if there are other contributions as well. The topic number 3 is artificial intelligence for cybersecurity reinforcement. The contribution is expected to be between 3 and 4 million. Then here it is lower TRL is expected, so it's more for researchers. I think more interesting. Of course, artificial intelligence is mentioned in the title, so it's obviously in the scope of this topic, but is in the scope on 2 different ways. So it's about countering the ways that artificial intelligence can be used. So used by the let's say the bad guys, but also using artificial intelligence in a good way. So artificial intelligence for attacking, but also artificial intelligence for defense. It is about improving the robustness, resilience, response. So all the expected, let's say, for the scope or expected topics. But then the keyword is artificial intelligence. Okay, here again, I think for the artificial intelligence, needless to say, there are a lot of documents. I think it has been mentioned also before. The next topic, scalable privacy-preserving technologies for cross-border federated computation in Europe involving personal data. We have in previous years, we had a lot of topics addressing the privacy-preserving technologies, and especially technologies that are applicable to big data and federated computation. We are talking here about homomorphic encryption, secure multi-party computation, differential privacy. All these technologies exist and have been developed before, but they were not practical. So I think here is focus is on practicability. They have been improved with the years, and for example, they could be applied. They're mentioning a scope on cyber threat intelligence sharing, but they also mention medical and behavioral data. So there are kind of 2 areas which have been mentioned where the federated computation could be done with the use of these technologies. Okay, so the next one, the destination is Disaster Resilient Society for Europe. Here, I think it's similar to let's say the previous destination, in the sense that they must cover impacts which are listed here, and they in this case they also say must build on previous projects. So this is maybe different from the other destination, that they really want projects to build on previous existing projects. There are several topics. Again, eligibility conditions are here listed in each one of the topics. TRL is not listed. If we go topic by topic, the first one is improved understanding of risk exposure and its public awareness in areas exposed to multi-hazards. These hazards are mentioned in the scopes and aspects and threats. So it could be chemical, biological, radiological, but also anthropogenic, which means caused by humans. International cooperation here is very welcome. They are mentioning also the role of international forum to advance the first responder innovation, IFAFRI, and also expert networks involved in UN and NATO initiatives. I think this is also very interesting for the partners from Turkey because of these international aspects. What else? The understanding of risk, I think it's important. The agent-based modeling systems is inside of scope. The use of historical data for preparedness. The involvement of societal science partners, involvement of experts from the other fields. So it's a multi-disciplinary topic, as well as involvement of citizens. So I think more or less it is mentioned in this scope of this topic. The next one is integrated disaster risk reduction for extreme climate events, from early warning system to long-term adaptation and resilience building. Indicative budget here is 6 million, innovation action, and again, we can see in eligibility criteria, the partners, beneficiaries must make use of satellite, of Galileo images and data. What else? In the scope, we have, as I said, collaborative involvement in risk assessment. This is because so far there have been many projects that they still treat this information in silos between technical and political authorities. So this collaboration, interoperability, data management, where they integrate the data about emergencies from apps, for example, from the citizens, also with the systems, existing systems. Involvement of societal science partners, etc. Next one, the enhanced assessment of disaster risk, adaptive capabilities, and scenario building based on available historical data and projections. The indicative budget is 5 million. And the conditions here again are similar. Here is a lot of focus is on multidisciplinarity, and they are even putting this in eligibility conditions. Besides this, the expected outcomes is on vulnerability analysis methods, integrate with evaluation tools for cost-benefit analysis, multi-criteria analysis, so different data farming experiments. Serious gaming is also mentioned. To maximize usability, and to have co-design, co-development, co-dissemination, and co-evaluation of these assessment tools and scenarios. Okay, so the acquisition of data is also mentioned, and international cooperation in relationship to acquisition of data. Next one, developing a prioritization mechanism for research programming in standardization related to natural hazards and or CBRN sectors. It's coordination support action, right? So it is quite a big one for the 4 million, but divided in probably in 2 projects of 2 million each. Their involvement eligibility is asking for 2 national standardization organization, but also chairs of relevant CEN and ISO technical committees. So it is very specific, specifically targeting this type of stakeholders. Standardization is not completely new in this. There was a previous call. There was some research projects delivered CEN workshop agreements. So but there was no mechanisms. They need probably more money to put these CEN workshop agreements into international standards. So I think this is very much linked to the projects that developed these CEN workshop agreements in the past. Standardization should support operations, policy making, etc. So this is, I think, very clearly and narrowly focused topic. Topic number 5, fast deployed mobile laboratories to enhance situational awareness for pandemics and emerging infectious diseases. Indicative budget is 8 million for 2 projects, 4 million each. So they expect a comparison of different existing approaches to mobile laboratories, but also building synergy between these approaches. Diagnostic capacity should be rapidly deployable. Interesting here is that they mentioned the cooperation with Japan. So this is where EU-Japan has been specifically mentioned the collaboration on pandemics, but they should build on top of that, and the other existing initiatives. Okay, we go to the last destination. I seen from the initial the poll on Slido. We can, by the way, Kemal, we can launch a new Slido here poll to see the results. I think, if I'm not wrong, in the beginning, most of the participants said that they are interested in this destination, strengthen security research innovation. It was closely followed by cybersecurity. So this was, it seems that for participants of this workshop is the most important or most interesting destination. I think novelty here is that this used to be among us that are following this program from a long time. This was in Spanish we have a word cajón desastre. I think it's a box where everything which is not in the other destinations they put in this one. So it was kind of in English I think there is also expression like a drawer where they put everything which is they don't know where to put it elsewhere. So in this program, in this work program, I think the focus is clearly on market, influencing market and uptake market. There's this technology transition from the research to market, and this is where this impact should be explained for the proposals in this destination. There are several open. Okay, so there are several, these are impacts and several open topics. One of these topics I will not cover because it's for national contact points, so only national contact points can participate in this coordination support action. But there are 2 topics that are open and could be interesting for the partners, for the stakeholders. One is about maturity assessment framework for security technology, in line with what I said to that these proposals should have really impact on the market. They expect here to communicate the readiness of technology. So Adamantius explained technology readiness level on scale from 1 to 9, but they are also proposing here integration readiness level, commercialization readiness level, manufacturing readiness level, security, privacy, and ethics readiness level, and societal readiness level, among others. So it's really anything ECIS readiness level. So they really, you can put here scales and invent the framework for readiness level for almost any issue. This maturity assessment framework should deliver also tools. So it's not only about theoretical, but these tools, I think that could be very lightweight. So I can think of Innovation Radar that was developed by joint research center. So these are kind of assessment framework that help with the questions and assessment to place your result in one of these levels, maturity levels. The next topic is knowledge networks for security research innovation. It's a coordination and support action. Here again, there are two proposals expected, 2 million each. So the total budget is 4 million. There are eligibility conditions that I think is very important in this proposal to read. And among the expected outcomes, there should be continuation and complementarity with the networks of practitioners that exist already under Horizon 2020. So you should check there, for example, Pan-European Network of Customs Practitioners. So it's a 5-year project, which is very long. So there are for cybercrime, there is a network of for law enforcement agencies. And important here is that they look for two options. One is border security, so the knowledge network related to border security. There is a project called Medea, which again has a 5-year, 60 months of implementation that is already running. And another one is on resilient. Option B is on resilient infrastructure, so knowledge network for resilient infrastructure. Finally, the topic number 4, demand-led innovation for situational awareness in civil protection. It is pre-commercial procurement. It is different type of instrument. So it is also focusing very specifically outcomes of SAYSO project. So it is expecting to identify the community of first responders in Europe that could participate in these procedures for pre-commercial procurement, which means common needs, requirements, but also later uptake of this launch of this pre-commercial procurement, but preparation stage and tendering, competitive development, and all these stages which are typical for the instrument. Okay, the next one, societal impact assessment and impact creation, transdisciplinary methods for security research and technologies driven by active civil society engagement. It's a long title. It is about assessing the impact of security technology, so on society at 2 different points, at the level of scientific methodology, but also at the outputs that generate the project generate. So what is the impact on society? This is a very much a societal, let's say, the topic, and it's also I think important to check the project which is called New Horizon with 2 R, New Horizon, which is H2020 project, and which have developed societal readiness level tools. I mentioned before this readiness, the hype or the sudden yes, the craziness about the readiness level tools. We have in this project, New Horizon, we have this tool which has been developed, and I think it should be used or at least mentioned in the proposals under this topic. It is should also cooperate closely with the network of practitioners, the ones that I mentioned that exist, but also the new one. And of course, the humanities, the involvement of different multidisciplinary experts from science, social sciences, humanities, legal, etc. I'm finished. So this is my last slide. Finally, where to search for partners. I mentioned before that community of users is going to be now series. So sorry for this. Is in Spanish. It will become a series community. It is already, there is a website, security research /KOU.eu. Series has different groups, working groups. They organize thematic workshops. So there have been several thematic workshops from Series. As I said, in the first one, for example, in fighting crime and terrorism, there are mainly police organizations or law enforcement organizations, as they call them. And I think it's a good also place to look for users. It is good to check position papers. I mentioned the roadmaps, research roadmaps of some cybersecurity projects, but there are also organizations like European Organization for Security, Security Defense Organization, Aerospace Security Defense Organization, ISD, ERTO, which is for Research and Technological Organization, and PASAG. There is an event the 31st of May and 1st of June, which is called SMIG. This is an event which is already a traditional, let's say, matchmaking event where the people go present their ideas and they look for partners. They ask for partners or they shop for their potential ideas. Info Day, its date is not announced, but probably end of June, and Innovation Days that have been also mentioned before, I think by Odysseus. So there are all events. There will be more because of this delay. I'm sure that there will be more. There will be more events, but there are possible ways to find the partners. And do not forget to check the previous projects because they do play in some destinations very high role because the proposals should be built on the existing results. I think this is all from my side. So.
Thank you, Ayosa. And I feel very comfortable because we had this roundtable discussion, which means that we will not need to delay the overall time. We might only need to leave out the discussion. We are now about to have a presentation from a success story in Turkey, and it will be Tolga Zönmez who will take the floor. Tolga graduated from Bilkent University from the Department of Electrical Engineering, and he had acquired both his master's and his PhD from USA, from the University of Maryland, College Park, both in electrical engineering, and his PhD was related with optimal sensor scheduling and tracking algorithms. And after this, he worked in advanced acoustic concepts in USA, and he continued to work in TÜBİTAK in Ankara to develop integrated navigation systems. And he joined Havelsan company, their R&D department, to work on sensor fusion, sensor networks, and wearables. And he's currently working on the coordination of New Horizon projects. So, Tolga, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Adamantios. First, I would like to begin with thanking the organizers for this nice event and putting together all these very valuable colleagues. I also learned a lot from the other presenters. So, okay, so I can start my presentation. So my name is Tolga Zönmez, and I'm working in Havelsan. My talk will be more about our particular experience in Horizon 2020. And I think it will be complementary to what has been presented so far. So first, let me talk a little bit about Havelsan. So it's a large industrial company located in Ankara. We have a lot of employees, around 2,000. And we have four main fields of activity in Havelsan. The first one is the command and control systems. And I'm also working in command and control systems where we work on sensor fusion and situational awareness systems. We have training and simulation technologies, country and cybersecurity solutions, management information systems. So as you can see, we are covering a lot of areas, and our expertise is really applicable in all areas of this security course in Horizon. But we have a small group right now that we are working for this Horizon course, and main expertise is in signal processing in general. And in the more specific areas, we work on indoor localization systems, navigation systems, and right now we are also working on capturing human motion data. And after that, we also work on artificial intelligence and sensor fusion, of course. And let me come to our Horizon experience. So I started to work as an evaluator for 1 year, actually, like 8 years ago. And I have seen the process. And we also had some participation experience with 5 projects in the 7th framework. And we were involved in some kind of proposals. Actually, there were really good partners in that consortium, but we have seen that there could be some mismatch consortium. There are a lot of partners coming with different expertises, but they don't make a complementary consortium. And we also see that in some of the projects, they become out of the focus because I'm also an engineer, so we have an unbearable desire to mix and match everything, and we like to develop technologies, we like to use them, apply them, but it's still we have a tendency to put too many technologies in a project idea, and it doesn't make sense after a point. So after that point, in 2018, we have decided to coordinate Horizon projects ourselves. So it's a difficult path, in fact, to coordinate the Horizon projects, but it has also some pro sides in it. I will come to that in a bit. So what have we done so far? So we have started with some small ITIA projects in the future. I think we have started this in 2016. Then our first project was in border management, and we had first worked on it in 2018, and as Adamantios have told, we have spent, I think, like $3,000 on the first project. It was our first coordination activity, and we have got 12.5 points, and we have been in the waiting list for this project with 12.5 points. We were ranked 4th, I think, in the ranking. Then in 2019, we have worked on Team Aware. So it was for the disaster resilient societies. The call was technologies for first responders. And we have received, in 2019, we have received a higher grade as points, as you can see, 13 points out of 15. But we were ranked as 13th of the project, 13th in the list. So that means that there were 12 proposals that were better than us. So after that, we worked one more year, and we resubmitted in the next year. And we, of course, we made some improvements. We took some new partners, and we got 15 points. And it really makes you wonder. For example, if one of the evaluators really, took half a point from us, then we couldn't get the funding in that project. So I think there's some kind of chance, there's some kind of biases in the evaluators, and also in some of the calls, there are a lot of submissions. There are a lot of applications in some of the calls. So you really have to try to understand how many calls will there be, how many proposals will there be in a specific call. So finally, we have received it this time in our second resubmission. And last year, actually, we have applied to another project also in border management. So it was some kind of anomaly detection for maritime vessels. Again, we had to, specifically in this call, for example, they required coast guards, a specific number of coast guards, and it was really hard to find last year, as you know, because of the pandemic situation. But we managed to reach enough end users, coast guards, border police, and we have received 11.5 points. And there were not many actually proposals in that call, but we couldn't get the funds in that one. And another call that we coordinated last year was in the infrastructure area, and we got below the threshold, 9 points. Here, actually, we went a little bit out of the focus because the call was related to protection of infrastructures using both cybersecurity measures and physical security measures. And the project has to consider these cascading effects in the infrastructures. But we have shifted a little bit of this consortium to, because of the pandemics, about the supply chain of critical products, as you know, last year, especially in the Europe, food and medical supply chain was really disturbed. And we thought that if we can include this as a specific use case, as a specific application area, this could be a very good project. So in the evaluations, the evaluators especially mentioned that this is an infrastructure code, so you cannot you have shifted too much to supply chain project. So actually we know that that was a risk that we took, but at least we had a very nice consortium. And this year, for example, as Aliosa has mentioned, there is a specific call about this critical infrastructures in the pandemic area. So I think we can resubmit it this year with a very with a better chance, at least, to gain the fund. Okay. So let's come to our winning proposal, Team Aware. So it was, as I said, in the DRS area, and the call was technologies for first responders. We became the first among the 92 projects with the whole points. And as you can see, we have a very distributed consortium with 24 partners all over the Europe. And as you can see, we have included some large research facilities, some small companies, universities, and we had a very good distribution, I think. And we, being the pro side of the one of the pro sides of this, being a coordinator, you can select the partners. Of course, we have picked all these partners specifically for this, for the purposes, for their contributions. And I think we had an excellent consortium. And here I would like to also mention about that, for each call, they come from a specific need for a specific problem, right? And in the brokerage events, they also call this specific experts, key experts in this area. And I think we really had some benefit for attending the brokerage events, and we met these critical people, and we tried to include them in the project. I think that really made a difference in our project. Okay, so let me give you a little bit more information about our project. So here on the left, you can see the events and risks that we want to take care of. So we would like to find people who are victims in some kind of an emergency situation or in a disastrous situation. And we would like to detect fire, smoke. We would like to detect if the building has some structural problem, deformity, if it has any danger of, collapsing. And we also try to detect chemical hazardous gases, explosions, gunshots are again some events that we have to find. And we would like to also track our personnel, the first responders, right? We would like to know their position, whether they are indoor or outdoor. We would like to know about their health, and we would like to know about their body posture. So this is the specific contribution of Havelsan actually. So we were working on human motion capture area, and we would like detect the posture of the first responders so that we can understand some of the anomalies. I will come to that in another slide. And we also had some social awareness data. So if there is any mislead data that has been spreading through social media, and we also took some citizen response and behavior. So this was missing, for example, in the first submission of our project. So in the second year, I think including this part, for example, really made a difference in the outcome. And for the subsystems, we have some specific partners who are building, who are experts in developing the specific parts. For example, head-mounted cams, drone-mounted cams, and of course, processing these images for detection of these events in the first column. We also had wearable CBRN sensors, drone-mounted wearable acoustic sensors for detecting these shots or explosions. And we also had some wearable nomadic beacons, wearable health sensors, wearable IMU sensors, which we developed, and citizen involvement data, social media data to process on them. And we collect all this information using some kind of a flexible communication network, which includes both tactical communications and also 5G communication tools. And at the center, we bring them all together to make some analysis, to use all this information together to understand the situation and make a better decision based on this coming data. And we also presented this data using AR, VR tools, mobile applications, and things like that. And in this project, Havelsan has the responsibilities of the project coordination. So we coordinated the whole project. And we developed these body posture sensors, body motion analysis, wearables, AR and AI algorithms for activity detection, fatigue and wound detection. And we also have a separate team for working on this mathematical model for developing a mathematical model for dispersion of these chemicals. And we had a budget of 7 million euros. And the duration of the project is 36 months. And it's a research and innovation action project. So that means that we have to complete the project with TRL levels between 5 to 7, actually. And as I am an engineer, I have to, of course, mention you about some of our technologies. So we are developing sensors that are wearable on the first responder. So this will be designed so that this will be very small sensors, and they will depend on the information that we collect with onboard sensors. And with edge processing, we process the data and convey it to the center, to the cloud for further processing. And with this technology, basically, we can do body posture tracking, remote monitoring of team members. We can do anomaly detection, injury detection, and fatigue detection. Fatigue detection is especially important for the first responders because many of the accidents happen when the personnel becomes really exhausted. So we have to, if we can detect this earlier, then this would really save some lives. And we can also make some activity detection, like running, is the person running, walking, crouching, sitting, standing. So we can differentiate automatically using artificial intelligence between these activities. So I'd like to show you a small video. I cannot resist not showing this. So our young engineer is wearing our wearables. Of course, these are right now too large, but we are going to miniaturize them. And we can, remotely monitor a digital twin of this, digital copy of this person. So if you think about it, if we have 20 first responders, we can detect their location and their activities remotely like this. And we also put some AI algorithms so that we can automatically differentiate between the activities. So if he walks, we can understand he's walking. If he's stink, then we can differentiate. We can know that he's stink. So with these learning activities, we can, of course, apply this to different kind of first responders with their specific activities. So I would like to mention also a little bit about the roadmap to grant agreement. So this is the process diagram of European Commission. We first try to find a call, we find the partners, we register our organization and submit a proposal. So again, we analyze the calls and select the best fitting one and form a basic project idea. Of course, we are working on sensor fusion and situational awareness systems. So we are looking for the calls that match our interests. And to find the partners, we use the brokerage events. So these brokerage events, as I said, is very important, I think. For example, 3 years ago, I didn't know anybody from Fraunhofer, Thales, or from large research institutes in Europe. But after we start to go to these brokerage events and after we start to coordinate projects, then right now we have a very nice network, I think, with these nice institutions. So I think this is a very important. And through these brokerage events, I also met some, associations, some academicians from Turkey who have very nice networks. So getting in touch with them has also improved our success, I think. Setting up a complementary consortium is also very important because you have a lot of people, a lot of partners, and you have to make a very good distribution of the workload, budget, and the assignments actually. So, for example, if you think about it, Havelsan has a very large company, and we can, implement some of the tasks we have given distributed to our partners. But that would be wrong because the evaluators always look for the complementarity of this consortium, because the main idea, as Odysseas has explained, is to bring together the European companies so that they can work together and do some stuff together. So this is very important, I think. And in some of the consortiums, I see that they are not very complementary, or they put too many partners unrelated to each other. So you have to be careful about setting up the consortium. Then we start collecting information from partners. So of course, our partners always, at first we have a very vague idea of a project idea, and we improve the project idea with our partners. We take the state of art from our partners, and for the beyond of state of art and for the innovation potential, we make extensive meetings with our partners to see how we can make this innovation potential possible. And here again, we are also very careful because we try not to put all kinds of technologies or all kinds of innovations in a single project, because we have to also convince the evaluators that we can realize this innovation potential, we can realize this beyond of start aspects of the project. So it should be really convinced. We should really be able to convince the evaluators, I think, in this aspect. And at the end, we write a harmonized proposal by ourselves, actually, because everybody has a different point of view, and in order to make a really harmonized proposal, the basic or the first iteration should be done by the coordinator, I think, and we do this on our own way, and then we of course share it with our partners and discuss about the improvements and correction suggestions and things like that. So the grant preparation is another story. So after the evaluations, you have to sign a grant agreement with European Commission and also a consortium agreement with the partners. Of course, this consortium agreement can be also signed beforehand, but in our projects, we usually work on it after the evaluation results. And a project officer is assigned to your project after the evaluations. So again, we had a project officer starting from the January, and we had really, weekly discussions with him so that we can come to an understanding for the grant agreement, because they are looking at different aspects of the project, of your proposal, and try to make sure that it is applicable according to the European Commission's rules and regulations. And ethics and security reports are important. So I will come to this in a bit separately. And after these reports, you have to resolve these conflicts. So there can be some there can be some conflicts arised by the experts in the European Commission. There can be some warnings, change suggestions, and things like that. So ethics is a very important subject for the European Commission, as you know. So we at first we make an ethics self-assessment when we are making the application. They are asking some questions, and we have to consider them in the proposal. And during the evaluations, of course, again, some ethics experts make some review. And after you get the grant, still there will be a ethics report drafted by the experts, and they will review and they will ask you some refinements in your proposal. So this is also very important. And during the implementation phase of your project, after your project has started, again, they do regular ethics checks and audits throughout the implementation of the project. So, as you know, the main critical issues are the GPDR issues, genetic research, if you are doing some kind of organic research. And of course, in our case, for example, in this security area, of course, dual use items is very important. So they don't want any military application developed in this topics, of course. So you have to make sure that your purpose is totally civil purposes. And misuse of research is also explored if there's any chance of that. And at the end, we have an ethics summary report drafted by after the project is selected for funding, and it has some warnings, it has some requirements to be done before the grant agreement. So again, you have to negotiate with the commission about this items, about these issues, and you have to resolve them before the start of the project. And the security part is very important also in this area. So there are 4 levels of classification, security classification in Europe. So top secret, EU secret, EU confidential, and EU restricted. So the easiest one is the EU restricted, but still it has some, you have to treat this very carefully. And there is a document for this. I think I already put this in my presentation, so you can download and check it. And this classification of information is decided in security scrutiny report. So in your proposal, of course, you give some security levels to your deliverables. But during the evaluation of the project and after the evaluation of the project, there are some security experts in the European Commission, and they also evaluate independent of your evaluation results of your project, and they can even reject your project based on this security scrutiny report. So you have to pay attention to these security issues. So what are these? So they are not very, concretely defined, but basically explosives, CBRN, critical infrastructure and utilities, border security, intelligence surveillance, terrorism, organized crime, digital security, space are critical subjects. And as you know, these security costs really involve most of these subjects, I think. So you have to be very careful about how you make these deliverables. So in our project, we have defined 166 deliverables, and 4 of them has been selected as EU restricted in our project. So this EU restricted means that associated countries, let's not say associated countries, but non-EU countries cannot see this EU restricted deliverables, okay? And some of the associated countries have some special agreements with the European Commission, with European Union actually, about this security agreements. But unfortunately, Turkey does not have any kind of this security agreement. So you can still be a partner in such a project, but you cannot see this EU restricted variables, deliverables. So in our project, we have devised a way so that we, as the coordinator, did not see these 4 deliverables. Okay, so let me go. And this is the, at the bottom, you can see the document, which gives the guidelines for the classification of information in research projects. So in our timeline of our teamware, so we have made our submission in the August last year. And we have received the evaluation results at the 18th of January this year. And we learned our project officer, and we started to communicate with our project officer. And in March, after some negotiations, so as I said, there were some security and ethics issues related to our proposal. And European Commission decided that as we don't have any security agreement with European Union, then they asked us to be the technical coordinator of the project, and so that they can have an administrative coordinator, separate administrative coordinator. And in this case, they said that they can accept the project. So in this way, we had a lot of negotiations, by the way, but they are very responsive. They are very transparent in this area. At first, I was a little bit frustrated about this security issue, but they explained it very well. And we looked at the agreements between the European Union and some other countries. And it was very plain that we cannot be the administrative coordinator of the project. So in this way, we came to an understanding at the mid of March, and we became the technical coordinator. And Simavi, one of our partners from Romania, who is very experienced in this projects, actually, they became the administrative coordinator. And on the 1st of May, just 3 weeks ago, we started our project. It was the official start of our project. And we had our kickoff meeting 5 days later. And now we have started our project, and we are having some regular meetings with our partners to develop the project. And we think that the adventure just starts, but we are very happy to start such a project, and we are very glad to work closely with very prominent partners. Okay, that's all for my presentation.
Many thanks, Tolga. And I think that we are still on time. We are 3 minutes before our official planned time to close. And Kemal, I don't know if you would like that we share to get some quick feedback for some remaining Slido questions. And till you share them with all of us, just to mention what I very much appreciated was what the personal aspect that you gave to your presentation, Olga, because you also showed there that success is not only just good luck that you had, but you worked hard, and it is a path that started from that ITEA project, which means that it's not that someone goes to an event, gives to other people some business cards, and then receives invitations to successful proposals. Of course, sometimes this happens also. Good luck happens, but usually it is a result of very hard work. Same also for what Ayosa mentioned before. So now Ayosa may be regarded as a very renowned member of the European security setting, but it dates back his involvement to the time of the preparatory action for security research back in 2004, which means that there is no way that you get an apple unless you plant the tree. Of course, you can go to the supermarket, but this is not the case of our training today. We all know how to go to the supermarket and buy an apple. Let's see the questions now, please, Kemal. you can lead us to the questions. So the third question is whether you are already a member of any network or alliance. And let's go to the next ones. Okay. And people can also now reply. This is very important information, not only for our project, it is for TÜBİTAK, for planning of future actions and improve the policies to help organizations, companies, research centers, academic groups from Turkey. So these are important information. Kemal, you can go to the next or stay. I don't know if it is sufficient, the number of responses we have.
This was the last question of Tolga Bey, and if you wish, I can open another question here. But
yeah, please, if we can, as many questions to get answered, they will be very important also for policy and analytics later.
Okay.
So otherwise, we were so much well planned about time. That it is fair if we get a little more time to pass so that people will be able to reply to some questions.
Maybe in the meantime, Adamantius, I can mention in the
Please,
chat,
please.
I already answered. There was one question in the chat about the use of, for quantum computing, use of research open source data. If I understood correctly the question, it was if the call is contemplating the use of open source data for research. This is something that I think is related. There is a one topic, specific topic that I mentioned, the FCT 0104, which is improved access to fighting crime and terrorism research data, which is about this making this research data repository. It is not specifically about data for neural networks and quantum computing, but it could be maybe it could deliver some repository of the open source data for research. Now, if the question was more specific for quantum computing, there is also one topic for quantum computing that quantum computing is mentioned as one of the possible solutions. That is, I think, if I remember correctly, that is about the lawful interception using new and emerging technologies. And quantum computing has been mentioned as one of these technologies for testing the software-based communication. So I think I don't know if between these two topics, if I answered the question correctly in a chat.
Yeah, I will check now if you consider the question answered. Otherwise, you can elaborate.
Emina was that.
Yeah. So this may be the last question, Kemal. This is a good question. Actually, I see the question is how many resources do you plan to invest in the future for preparations of proposal? And again, I consider that I have no idea yet is a very good answer, because sometimes we need to think, to discuss, to cross-check with other people in our organization. Otherwise, it would be foolish to take a decision. But the problem might be once someone decides and commits, and then after some time, after a failure, the commitment is evaporated. I have to thank you all. And first of all of you that attended, and it's a pity that we cannot see your faces. So soon, hopefully, we will be able to meet face to face. And Ilknur, we are honored from having opened this event. Tolga also, and Ayosa. I was very happy you actually needed to so much quickly go through the calls, but I think that I was also taking notes of several things that, you know, it's always a good thing if someone else guides us and shows us the road there. And I am wishing you all the best. And you can still contact all of us. Odysseus is not with us, but all of us, you can contact us by email or through the project office of the project. And we will be very happy to hear from you anything. And I thank you again very much for this event. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.